if the Earth is flat, Pete,
Okay.
then there would be no measurable change in elevation. Q.
Okay.
Elevation is a measured change in the vertical axis, therefore not Q.
Therefore, Earth is not flat. And in maths, you can prove whatever you like. I'm saying it's not physics. That's all that I'm saying.
Yeah, so where does the proof of your flat Earth, where does that come into it?
You measure Earth as flat with a flat baseline to a ground position to start. You can also prove a flat Earth by measuring angles. How useful for proving a flat Earth? It's a measurement of a flat Earth. Okay, measuring things is not scientific. Yes, that's correct.
So what about the proof then, right? Does the proof of flat Earth that you have, does that lie within the bounds of science?
No.
I will get triggered now because this is dishonest prick.
Okay, measuring things is not scientific. Yes, that's correct.
Well, I was just wondering, when you were talking about proof of your flat Earth, is that the same proof as the proof that you were talking about with Jaren in science?
I answered the first two times. I said no. Twice. No.
I will
No.
get triggered now because this is
Measuring
dishonest prick.
things like a flat baseline to a ground position to start, that's not scientific. That's a measurement. Science establishes
Should I
the
show you
cause
how
of an
it's
effect.
possible,
That's the science we deal with. We deal with natural
By
science.
using scientific
And while
method
the knowledge can be put on the cover of a book as the science
prove the Earth
of
is flat.
ground position to start, here we specifically deal with natural
Should I show you how
science.
it's possible,
That's
mate?
the scientific method.
by using
There's the
scientific
distinction.
method to prove the Earth is flat.
And I'll agree with you. In maths, you can prove things in the maths. The maths itself is an abstract language. Whereas physics, that's science and the scientific method, is dealing with the physical. It's the difference between science, physics, the physical, and maths, which
Should I
is
show
an
you how it's
abstract
possible,
language to describe things. If you're saying you can prove things with maths, 1 + 1 = 2. Ground position. Proof. To start, and you are equal to, you've had 1 plus the other one. I can accept that that's proof. Ground position. Maths. To
No.
start. In physics, it isn't proof.
Should I show
Because
you
it
how it's
isn't
possible,
physics.
mate?
Physics is the
By
physical.
using scientific method to prove the Earth
Okay,
is
again,
flat.
I can use the scientific method to prove the Earth is flat. Not the Earth is flat because of scientific method. There's a difference. Shape is not science. But I can use method, the scientific method, to show that it is flat.
Ground position. To start.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
I got your numbers, they're right here.
Yes, that's correct.
It's just as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Sphere, not see
You
thing.
have to open your mind.
Flat, I see thing.
Imagination is all you need.
You do know science is also
Don't
deductible.
take advice from fools.
That is a fact.
Everything that they say is in vain.
This is a flat Earth proof. Yes, that's correct.
Never take advice from fools. We all know what they do is in vain.
Should I show you how it's possible, mate? By using scientific
Yes,
method
that's correct.
to prove the Earth is flat.
An Earth was proved to be flat by these measurements.
So we would assert that that average is how average the level of level is. It's flat. There it is. That's how we use it. The deviation from that reference means it isn't flat.
Everything is relative to you.
I will get triggered now because this is dishonest
You
prick.
just have to say
that's
it.
correct.
Generality.
It's a what is
Just
Go.
like those straight lines of curves.
Means it isn't flat. Yes, that's correct.
Drive down the road, don't you
Yeah, but the
ever
elevation changes make the Earth not flat.
Third, then, it's a stupid argument. So this is a flat Earth proof.
Where all of this goes.
Don't report to FED or no one. I am my own person. I am my own person.
Yes, that's correct.
Everything that they say is in
By using scientific method to prove the Earth is flat.
Never take advice from fools.
To prove the Earth is flat.
That they do is in vain.
Don't report to FED or no one. I am my own person.
What's your observed phenomenon for a flat Earth?
Did I say flat Earth was my observed phenomena, or did I say I can use scientific method to prove it's flat? Huh.
Okay, what's your observed phenomenon? to prove that it's flat.
I see too far. How's that?
I know the game that you're playing,
You want to know, Josie?
and I know exactly what's on your mind.
Now I'm just letting the FED crew know
You
that
got your playbook, it's alright.
their lapdog needs more
Your
training
model dictates what you will find,
because you're an idiot.
and I don't know
Okay, what's your observed phenomena to prove that it's flat?
where all of this goes.
I see too far. How's that?
Don't take advice from fools.
Because you're an idiot.
Everything that they say is in vain.
I'm manipulating my position.
Never take advice from fools. We all know what they do is in vain.
Do I manipulate my position when I manipulate my position? Do I manipulate my position when I manipulate my position?
What does your position have to do with the shape of the Earth?
You have an angle towards this.
You can also prove a flat Earth by measuring angles.
Observe, which is
How
already too
useful
far
for
to
proving a
see.
flat Earth.
Now that is scientific fact. There's no real evidence for it, but it is scientific fact.
The rebuttal is actually a straw man. And that's, why I want to clarify, because I think that's worth pointing out, that the rebuttal was a straw man. Nowhere in the argument is the words level plane even mentioned. Topography is not mentioned. And it's only about the elevation change, which is a measured change on the vertical datum. There is no conflation between baseline and topography in the argument. It's just a simple if-then argument about elevation change. And obviously the Earth is not flat because of elevation change. That's what the argument is about. I mean, we can read it out, the entire if-then, again, if it's needed.
Read me one more time, just so I can hear it again. Sorry, say it one more time.
If the Earth is flat, P,
Okay.
then there would be no measurable change in elevation. Q.
Okay.
Elevation is a measured change in the vertical axis, therefore not Q.
Therefore, Earth is not flat.
But the refutation to the argument being that there's some sort of conflation going on between a baseline and topography is just a straw man, because that's not the case for anybody who actually reads the argument. That's my point.
Well, it's not an argument because you're convoluting the baseline from which you will measure, which is your mean sea level. You're convoluting that with the topology you're trying to measure. So it's not an argument. Just you're misusing words.
And me stating the fact that mean sea level is a point on a vertical datum and not a level plane is just a statement of fact. Mean sea level is not a level plane, it's simply a point on a vertical datum. That's all.
Yes, but it's not a level. You don't understand that. What you just said.
Stupid non-argument, you stupid bonehead!
Okay, again, I can use the scientific method to prove the Earth is flat. Not the Earth is flat because of scientific method. There's a difference. Shape is not science, but I can use the scientific method, to show that it is flat.
Why do we have to listen to this incessant verbal diarrhea with the verbatim repetition of it? Bird it!
Just be patient, guys. This happened before.
Well, I was just wondering, when you were talking about proof of your flat Earth, is that the same proof as the proof that you were talking about with Jared in science?
I heard you the first two times. I said no. Twice.
You don't understand.
Earth is not flat.
You don't understand.
Earth is not flat.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
It's not my problem if you don't want to learn. You're just on your own.
Where's the science for a stationary Earth? Okay, way to demonstrate that you don't understand what science is without saying you don't understand what science is. Because science deals with cause and effect relationships. Though natural science, that's the study of the physical and natural world, is what we are dealing with here on Flat Earth Debate. Now that is exclusively the singular, scientific method. That is exclusively illuminating the cause of naturally occurring phenomena. So when you say, what's the science for stationary Earth?
Should I show you how it's possible, mate?
Okay. You're so used to being told that you can prove concrete nouns with science.
By using scientific method to prove the Earth earth is flat.
Prove concrete nouns with science, do you expect us to adhere to that non-standard?
Not the earth is flat.
Earth is not flat. Earth is not flat.
Not the earth is flat.
It's not my problem if you don't want to learn.
Because of scientific method. Shape is not science, but I can use the scientific method to prove the earth is flat.
You can prove concrete nouns with science, do you expect us to adhere to that non-standard? It's not a cause and effect relationship that you're asking about. So when you say flat Earth,
should I show you how it's possible,
measuring
mate?
things is not scientific. Yes, that's correct.
By using scientific method to prove the Earth is flat.
That's not something happening. That's not an occurrence. That's not a phenomenon. You're not going to get an IVDV relationship.
Do I manipulate my position when I manipulate my position?
It's absurd to ask us for the science of flat Earth.
You can use method, the scientific method, to show that it is flat.
No, you can ask for the measurements of flat Earth, the geometry of flat Earth.
Okay, measuring things is not scientific. Yes, that's correct.
The practical application of flat Earth, you can ask for all those things and we can provide them.
You don't understand.
Earth is not flat.
Not the Earth is flat.
You don't understand.
Not the Earth is flat.
Earth is not flat.
It's not my problem if you don't want to
To
learn.
a ground position.
Just on your own.
But asking for the science of a concrete noun demonstrates you don't understand what science is.
To a ground position.
No reason.
To start.
No logic.
Ground position.
No wisdom.
To start.
No worries.
It's elucidating the cause of an effect, and the
You're
effect
just on your own.
exclusively natural. Only natural.
Does that lie within the bounds of science?
To question.
No. Ground position. To
You're just
start.
on your own.
So what about the proof then, right? Does the proof of flat Earth, does that lie within the bounds of science?
No.
Well, it's not an argument because you're convoluting the baseline from which you will measure, which is your mean sea level. You're convoluting that with the topology you're trying to measure. So it's not an argument. Just you're misusing words.
What does that have to do with the shape of the Earth?
Sphere, not see thing. Flat, I see thing. I will get triggered now because he's a dishonest prick. You can use the scientific method to prove it's flat. Flat itself is not a science. You want to know how I can use science to prove it's flat? Have you ever thought of that? How would you do it?
Was that your
Andrew,
head? Are you going to try and plug your shit on my channel?
No, I wouldn't want to do that.
Lost, if you're telling me you're going, I didn't thank you in return, you noticed.
Yeah. Keep watching Nathan Oakley. And we are live. Welcome everyone. It is Tuesday. Welcome back to Tuesdays. Like a Logic night. Was it Logic? Yeah, that was a fair bit ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That? Ooh.
Yep.
We're gonna have to start doing all of that stuff again. It's everything's settling down. Once we've finished all of this weird shit, pointing out that the flat earthers have got nothing, no proof. They don't even know the basic geometric stuff. We've had somebody in here today telling us that there isn't an axiom 11.
No axiom 11. While using the Greek word axiom as proof that there's no axiom. So we had to bring SE in to our resident Greek translator to confirm that the word he used in Greek was actually axiom, not postulate. Holy crap, man. This is where we're at, 2023.
Yeah, nobody's got an idea on how to actually formulate an argument. Never mind have the rhetoric to be able to use the argument in a discussion. Andrew Calvert saying I'm being disingenuous when he's talking about the overall Earth. Well, I don't know the overall Earth. I don't even know what that is. Nobody does. Andrew saying I'm being disingenuous because
unless you're
topography measured.
Yeah, Exactly. Unless you're going to be, one of the people who say that, we've got pictures from space, and therefore I believe in that, and then I've seen the whole. Okay, well, fair enough if that's where you're going to go. Or maybe he's thinking that he's seen, I don't know, Dave Weiss's view on the app of what the overall Earth looks like. You go with that.
Yeah,
I don't even think that's
I
a
don't
picture
want to
though.
have a
It's not
go
even
at
an image.
Andrew or anything like that, because I mean they're coming from a fixed narrative, the dogmatic flat Earth, let's say, that it's just been handed to you. I mean, Andrew, all we're saying is that in reality there is a measured elevation change which makes the Earth not flat. It's simple. Doesn't really need any argument, because I mean you can't really argue against it apart from telling people that somebody's being disingenuous because I don't know what.
I would say that rather he is disingenuous because he is using word overall. What does it mean? For me, means just all. So all means that every bit of Earth should be flat. This is categorical statement. And of course, it is easily disproved because we can see that not every bit of land or even water is flat. There is much more not flat Earth than flat. In fact, in reality, we have very few examples of naturally flat Earth, like salt lakes or whatever. But they are very rare. So overall shape, let's say, of the Earth is not flat.
Not flat.
This is overall.
Yeah, but which is, you would agree, paper, right? Not a shape, right? From a Euclidean perspective, which is where we tend to come from, flat is not a shape. It is absolutely not a shape.
Yes, but this is description of. So flat means no vertical changes.
Yeah,
and
that's what flat.
measurable. Yes, so they are multiple. In fact, there are, as I said, there are only very few places in the world that we can say that they are flat, naturally flat. Very few. So most of the land and water, which is not at rest because oceans are not at rest. So overall, Earth with water is not flat.
Yes,
So
and I would
most.
say also we need to go back and caution people as well that I think for most people they're thinking of, when they say flat, they're thinking of a horizontal orientation, and that is not the only orientation where you can ascribe the observation of flat to, because you can have flat in the vertical orientation as well. Bev's whiteboard as an example. That if that's hanging on a wall, that's a vertical horizontal. That's a vertical thing that's quote flat unquote.
I agree.
So it's not just horizontal. This is the problem, right? This is the problem. And for me, having spent like maybe 5 minutes in the flat Earth before I realized it was just another dogmatic, call it a psyop because I do. That these people that call themselves flat earthers pride themselves in being part of the truth community, quote unquote. You've heard this term before, right? These are people that are seeking the truth, and this is how they got here. They may have come through the fake space images or non-existent moon landing or whatever way you decided to come to this particular arena. But I think most
Can I
of those
interrupt?
people, hang on one second, Rob. I would think that most of those people came through seeking some sort of truth, yet they're handed this dogma and they accept it the same way they accepted globe when they were a kid. Now you can go, Rob.
Well, I'm just wondering why I'm the only quote unquote flat earther that sticks around this place.
Because you like to call yourself a flat earther, but you're really not a flat earther because you know all the real arguments.
Right.
That's why.
Why aren't more people getting on that train?
I don't. It's
Betty's
holding on to
side
it.
rule.
Yeah, maybe so. Right?
Somebody's given them a side. Not me. And it's pretty obvious that we are not on anyone's side. They've got the dogmatic flat earth crew.
Yeah.
Team.
Both sides hate us.
Mm-hmm. That's why there's nobody that wants to come round here, because nobody can see the actual argument. They've all got been ingrained in these circular dogmatic arguments that just support the globe, right? The globe narrative goes round and round and round. Flat Earth has been built to fit into that globe narrative, because I don't think they can see that the globe doesn't actually exist. So in order for the globe to have some sort of an argument, they need to have something to ridicule. That it's the Harlem Globetrotters, if you will. Thank you very much, Kevin. The globe needs to be the Harlem Globetrotters, because they can't win a game otherwise. It's just for show. And here we are just trying to talk about reality. It's all we've ever been doing. Andrew's just pointing out that we've said it all along, Andrew, right since day one. The Earth is not flat, but level is horizontal, provably. And that's all we've been doing. We can prove it. Simple. But proving level being horizontal is a fact of reality, right? Nobody's going to disagree with you. No one in the real world, in industry, will ever disagree with you stating that level is horizontal. What they will disagree with you is that makes the Earth flat, because it doesn't. Go on, Rob.
I just want to make a recommendation to this Andrew guy. Get your hands on a 10-meter water level. Use it. Understand the tool. And you won't say stupid shit like that.
Yeah, I don't want to go against anybody. I want to have these conversations. The strange thing is, we've been here for, 6 years now, I think. We've got proof that level is horizontal. We've been doing what we do. We've been out, we've done optic tests to prove that every one of the globe surveyors was lying. But that narrative has still is being pushed and allowed to be made into an argument by the flat earthers. We've been saying it all along. Jesse Kozlowski's left, and we can tell you exactly why he left. Nobody wants to bother. The videos have been made. So the proof is there. It's obvious, right? There's geometric proof. Obviously, we can back that up with actual proofs and discussion. This is just to point out that the Earth's not flat. Let's live in reality. And then we can all just carry on talking about reality. But I mean, if the circular argument is going to have to be had, and the flat earthers and the globe earthers have already stated that they don't want to get involved in any arguments or proofs from reality. It's nothing to do with their models, so they don't want anything to do with it. If anybody does want anything to do with proofs in reality, and the fact that level is horizontal and water levels are also horizontal, then we'll go over the tests that we do. We've already done them. They're out there for everybody else to do as well. get this. I know everybody's going to be upset, and it's not, because there's no drama going on with any of this. I can only say that we have proofs in reality, and we can only say that we can prove that the Earth is not flat, and we can also prove that the Earth, the globe, is not spherical through similar arguments. Just don't live with any contradictions. You can't push for exploration, Andrew. That's ridiculous. I don't think you can push for full exploration. I can't even
do
go
what I
on
do.
holiday.
I would just tell Andrew to do what I do and call flat Earth a subject, and that's it.
There is this weird, we've talked about this many times, right? There is this, I say weird, it's weird to me, right? This desire to know the entirety of the thing upon which we live. I just don't understand that mentality. It's like it's not good enough, the grandeur, if you will, the gloriousness of this creation. It's not good enough for people just to accept that for what it is. Somehow man has to think himself superior to any of that creation by somehow, I don't know, holding it in his or her hands. Maybe what's that? What is that? What is that psychological desire to have to know something? Is it to control it? Is that what it is? Because you can't control what you don't know. I'm not sure what it is, but there's a psychological aspect to this that's troubling. It's like, just be at peace. What is wrong with epohe? What is wrong with ataraxia? Just be at peace with it. It's like, you live where you live. There's beauty and grandeur where you live. Reality is reality. Water acts the way it does, right? The land is not flat. What is wrong with these things? I just don't, it makes no sense to me at all. Just psychologically. But it appears that a great deal of mankind, for a great deal of people, that's not good enough. It's just not good enough.
Yeah, we have had this thing with the cardinal directions.
Yeah.
North, south, east, and west. Andrew's saying we should explore everywhere, but where is everywhere?
Yeah.
Like, do you imagine you can travel east and return back to where you started? And if you can do that, then
what does that
how
mean?
do you know where everything is? That's crazy.
Exactly.
It's like you're going down the rabbit hole there.
I think I told this story before, but for those of you that haven't heard it before, like I have one of these cars that has a compass, an electronic compass in the rearview mirror. My wife had hung her magnetic strip from work on the rearview mirror, and if I tried to go in a certain direction, I would have gone in circles. Absolutely gone in circles. That's what it is. But I would have never explored beyond my cul-de-sac, because I would have continually gone in one circle. But that doesn't mean that there isn't other places elsewhere. But it also means, like, does it really matter? Well, yeah, in that instance, it does matter to me, because I need to go to the grocery store or whatever, and I need to not just sit in my cul-de-sac spinning around in circles in my car. Okay, so I get it. But what is the point?
Andrew says everyone goes in various directions heading south. But south is just one direction, Andrew. How can you go in various directions heading south when south is just a direction? I don't even know whether people know what they're saying anymore. The model is so ingrained. That's... I want to pick it out, Andrew, but I mean, how can you go in various directions heading south?
Yeah. Lakota wind is a great point. It would be able to, quote, to be if people let you be. So why have these models been impressed on people? That's a great freaking question to ask. An absolutely great question to ask.
I know why certain models have been pushed. It's because they don't want you looking into what is.
Yeah, isn't North the model? Yeah, well, certainly for the false dichotomy in this arena, North is the trick, isn't it? It's a thing that they both share in common.
Yeah,
It's
where
a
is
thing
it?
that both Jaren and Fight the Flat Earth will try to eat your face if you go away from that dichotomy, or that North is in the center and you travel east west around it.
Yeah,
I mean,
give it a monadic value. Right?
Yep.
I can't do that. It's just that leads to contradictory ideas. If you put North at the center. But that's what's been given to everyone. I wonder why that's the only thing that's ever been shown.
I have, honestly, I have side view on that topic, so I'm not arguing, because I can live with, I cannot see that, for me, it is not contradiction that the North is center point, and for me, it does not violate things that you can have these directions. But as I said before, for me, they are not cardinal. Because, and even I don't know what it means, cardinal, because if they are universal, so cardinal would be universal, then I would disagree. But if it means something else than universal, then I don't know what it means. But for me, there is no contradiction.
Well, you see, to me, it's contradictory. Lakota's just said, what happens once North has been reached?
Another
can
great
you
question.
head north and end up going south? That sounds contradictory to me.
Well, and
South
I would
is
say
behind you, right? You can't head north and then go south.
How is that different than digging down and ending up going up?
Yeah.
To me, there's no difference.
Literally, yeah. He says that is a model.
Yep.
There's no way you would ever take that on without that model being in place.
Maybe, but this, for me, these cardinal directions are a convention for mapping, for example, or surveying and mapping. But for me, this is to say that they are parallel and perpendicular to each other, these longitude lines and latitude lines, which are depicting these directions. It's only for mapping purposes or surveying.
Well, what about my new Euclid book? Well, say new. It's older, it's 1700s. That says a line is longitude without latitude.
Yes, I agree. But in that fact, latitude means breadth and longitude means length. This is just another word for that. So
they are perpendicular to each other in that aspect, aren't they?
Yes, yes, in that aspect, yes. But he was not talking about distance or angle to the star, because these geographical latitudes and longitudes are referring to, unfortunately, to the North Star. So basically, longitude is referring to North Star, which is a point. And that's why it is called North Star, Polaris, pole star. Polaris means pole star, and it is always was called North Star.
Yeah, but really, in actuality, it's just the star, the light in the sky, that doesn't move. The rest of them seem to go around it. So
yes, of course.
that's the only thing. I mean, now people saying, well, let's call that north. That's as far as it gets, right? Just people saying, well, we'll call that north. But then other people say, well, it's not quite the same as the magnetic north or the geographic north. So you've got multiple different norths. And nobody really knows what they are, but certain people place it at a point.
Yep.
Yeah, because of this star. So this is the reason. Because for me, it is just where this North Star is. It is a north. So, and of course, if it is a light in the sky, so you can consider it as a point, shining point on the ceiling, let's say. So
well, that's another thing. I don't know that if you go there, then that light would be above you. I don't know about that. I mean, the only light that has supposedly done that is one in a story Bible.
Mm-hmm. Over a certain place in the Middle East.
3 guys went on a trip.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes, but this is not. But this star was moving with them. So when they stayed, for example, to at night, so this star was staying with them at night, and when they go at the day, so the star was moving with them or before them to show the way. But this is not a normal, let's say, star. But this star, North Star, is where it was always, and this is reference, at least the longitude lines on maps, they and latitude are referring to these celestial bodies which are moving.
But you see, they are
like sun.
Perpendicular. They're described in geometric terms as being perpendicular. Certain ones are called parallels. Yet people want to bend the other ones. Mm-hmm. Like it goes completely against all geometric understanding. That bending of one of the lines.
Yes, if they assume them to be parallel, for example, or perpendicular, then yes. But I think that they are showed on maps as perpendicular and parallel only because the small area of land. So they are close. They are seemingly parallel and perpendicular. But for me, it is contradictory to what they express, because they express angles. So, and they are shown in degrees. So if we have, for example, between longitude line, distance between longitude lines is in angle, expressed in angle. So for me, it dismisses argument that they are parallel, because they cannot be parallel if they are expressed in angles.
But they are called parallel, aren't they?
Yes, but so how can you? So how can you express parallel line with an angle?
Geometrically, you can't.
Yeah, but they are.
I know. Same, but it's the same thing with north, south, east, west.
Yeah, the point is that the land was already mapped first. Lakota points out. That latitude, longitude comes after the mapping of the land. Mm-hmm. So it's how people imagine things as they're doing whatever they're doing. completely
telling you.
irrelevant to the shape of anything. The maps have
Exactly.
already
No,
been
no, no.
made.
I am not talking about shape because it is not related to any shape. Because how?
I'm not saying you put it to shape.
But still, for example, I don't know. I always knew that equator is the path of the sun at equinox because it is exactly between tropics. That's why it is called equator. And nobody, sincerely, I've never heard since now that the sun is not making circle, because seemingly it is. And this line is called equator. So it is, for me, by fact and maybe even by definition, a circle, this equator. And
So that would be a
tropics
shape.
also.
That would be a shape.
Circle, yes, circumference. So this path of the sun is circumference.
So there's still a monadic. There's still and I'm not pushing any buttons, paper. Don't get me wrong, right? All I'm saying, and I think Bev may be saying the same thing, right? Is there's a monadic perspective to both of those models, whether it's a flat Earth model or it's a globe Earth model. They share something in common, and that one thing in common, at least one thing in common, is a circular aspect of their world. It must be circular. Okay. Now, hang on a second.
I would disagree.
Well, you said yourself that east-west for you is a circle.
Yes, because I relate these directions to celestial bodies. So, as I said, longitudes and latitudes are from celestial bodies. So longitudes are in relation to the star, to the point, and latitudes, are related with the path of the sun.
All right, go ahead, Rob, because I want to further this. To me, this is a fascinating discussion. I want to get the guys that are in the YouTube channel. There was a conversation I want to get to. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, all I was going to say was the path of the sun. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouths, but is it traveling in a straight line?
I would say not, and
I don't even know what the sun is. So
I understand, but we can. No, that's fine. We don't need to know what it is to know the direction it's traveling, because we can observe that, right?
East to west is the way that it's done. Is the sun moves from east to west, and they take a perpendicular from that, which would be
I don't know about
south.
Yeah, but what I mean is when I watch the sun travel, it seems to take an arcing motion across the sky for me every time. I've never seen it travel in a straight line. That's all.
Yes, that's would be my, let's say, evidence also, because I can see objects traveling in straight line, and I know how they behave in the frame of my eyes, let's say. So sun is, for me at least, evidently not taking straight path. Especially, it is visible, especially at sunrises and sunsets. So I cannot imagine that when it is setting, that it is going in straight line. And I think that, okay, maybe it is also can be proven by this so-called midnight sun, so the 24-hour sun at in Norway, I say, or even in Anchorage, Alaska, I many times have seen supposedly sun around. So camera was going around. So for me, that would be evidence that the sun is really making a circle.
This discussion is so fascinating for me. It is so fascinating for me because these are the same words that are used by others that we discuss with. And I'm sorry to have to say this, but it sounds just like it. Pictures, videos I've seen. I haven't seen any of this myself really. But the
Yes,
pictures I've seen, the videos I've seen, the things I've heard, the models I've been fed all say X. So let me ask a question. Let me give to the guys in the YouTube chat. So Lakota Wind said, where is north exactly? And Eric says, up there somewhere. Lakota Wind says, what happens if when the north has been reached? And Eric says, then south is in every direction? Question mark. Let me get the take for the people in here. In your mind, what do you imagine happens when you reach north?
You are talking about implications. So
No, I'm asking a simple question. I'm not talking about any implications. I'm just asking a question. This is not a gotcha. This is a conversation. All we're having is a conversation.
So if this North Star is north and this star is a point, so when I reach this point, of course, not and I'm not going into the sky, but if I am underneath this, which for me personally is not possible because I think that I will not travel there in my life. But of course, if I am going to that star, it is higher and higher. So I don't need to check that if it is higher because I know that. And everybody knows that if we are going to the North Star, this star is getting higher and higher. So it implies that there should be a moment when where we are underneath. So if we reach that point and we will pass that point, so we will have this star behind our eyes, our head.
So, and then you would be traveling south, or I don't want to put words in your mouth.
We will travel south because this is a point. So that's why I reject that. If you say that it is universal direction, that would be direction always ad infinitum. But if the star is a point, it implies that it cannot be.
Okay, so for you, Paper, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you correct me if I'm wrong. For you, you would focus on the light in the sky that generally depicts what we all call north, i.e. Polaris. And then at some point, if you were ever to reach the point to which Polaris is directly over your head, every place else would be south, but you're really only looking at that in relation to that particular star, yeah?
That would be that, yes.
Okay. Anybody else have something different? Does anybody else want to go with a compass? What happens if you reach north?
No, I just want to agree with Paper, but I do like the compass.
Okay, so Rob, in your mind, what do you imagine happens if you were to follow that needle? Do you believe that there's a place where you can reach north, where north is?
Have no idea.
You have an imagination of what happens. What happens if you reach north? Okay, what happens?
Then my needle would just spin.
Your needle would just spin.
That's what I think.
Because that's an interesting concept as well, because that is similar to what we've heard certain people say about if you dug down at a certain point, you'd start digging up again. But right before you start digging up, while you're digging down, what happened? Wait a minute. What happens? What do they imagine happens? If you were digging straight down, before you start digging up, what happens? at that point. Again, a point. Come on, guys, you know these arguments better than they do. What do they say happens?
You
Now, of course,
float.
nobody knows this. You float, right? You get to a point where
That's
there's
not
no
spinning.
gravity, huh?
Yeah, but
Yes,
when
but
I said you get to the center, I said that the needle would spin. I didn't say the needle would float.
Yes, true enough. You said the needle would spin. This is why I say, to me, this is me. Bev, you may have a similar idea, but I don't know. Long guys, hang on. To me, there are similarities there. And to me, those similarities are the monad. It is the monad. It is that point, whatever that point happens to be. For certain people, that point is north. For other people, that point is the center of a ball. To me, there's very little difference between those two things. That's just me.
okay,
But I
but
find it fascinating. I do find it fascinating.
I have a counter argument to that.
Okay.
Because we cannot check that the center of the Earth is a point. But we can, I would say, observe that if Sun and other celestial bodies are circulating around this North Star, which is fixed star, so naturally, if you have star trails, for example, it is clearly visible that all stars are revolving around North Star. So I can say that it is clear that celestial bodies are making circle around this particular star. I would say that we can assume that this is true. So therefore, my inferring about this latitude and longitude lines are based on observation, or made by this observation were made by, for example, astronomers or whatever, cartographers also, I don't know. But there are real motions, real things. But if you are talking about this monad in reference to center of the Earth, we cannot check it. So I would say that because I think that you are starting to equivocate that this position is unreasonable, and it is if we are talking about the center of gravity, because absolutely there is no one who can check that. But we can check that these motions of stars and celestial bodies.
Well, let me say, I'm not equivocating anything. I did say there are similarities. And to me, there are definite similarities. Now, you've said we can check Polaris being that point. So there's a couple things. First off, you have to trust, because you've never been there. I've never been there. I don't know that maybe somebody can point to a Google reference of someone that's been there that's still alive. The actual place where you can stand with your feet on the ground and have Polaris directly overhead. So that's number one. So you say that you can't get to the center of what their ball Earth is. Granted. Okay. However, my counter argument to that would be, show me the person or people that stand at the point where Polaris is directly overhead, because I don't know whether that's possible or not, just the same as I don't know whether going to the center of a ball is possible or enough. Maybe you just can't dig far enough yet, right? This is what everybody says. This is what I'm saying about making claims and imagining things and not going with epohe. This is what we started out by having this particular conversation. And again, I'm not equivocating. I'm just saying, to me, I see certain similarities in these two, let's say, observations, models, imaginings, whatever you want to call them, right? The other thing is, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have seen these star trails. When you look at Polaris in these star trails, especially if they're time lapsed, that star does seem to move, albeit very, very, very slightly. So the idea that one can claim that that star does not move in your perspective or a camera's perspective is also a claim that I don't think is correct.
Maybe this is disputable. So because of course there is something like twinkling star. So they are twinkling or they are blinking. So there is some, I would say, refraction even at this position that we are looking up. So I would say that it is disputable. I have seen some star trails showing that effect, that the star is also revolving. It is so tiny motion that in fact you can say that the star is still circling around itself. Maybe not in the center of the star, but this it is very close. So I have no problem with that. But it doesn't imply any shape of anything of Earth, by the way, and it does not mean that we live in the around the star. But I would say that we do, but my statement does not imply that. My argument for that would be that if we are living at the same, for example, latitude, let's say you, Kevin, in America, and I here in Poland, I have near Warsaw, I think it is 45 degrees. I never measured it, but let's say that I live at 45. So North Star is 45 degrees above horizontal, let's say. And you live in America, and let's say that you also live at the same. You have North Star at the same angle, vertical angle. It means that we are living at the same latitude, sorry. And because it is a point, it implies that between us, it is an angle, because this longitude line, if you are looking at the star and I am looking at the star, it implies that these lines of longitude would be at an angle. How could you express that as parallel lines? Because for me, it is impossible.
Yep. Okay. All right. I thought that was a fascinating discussion. So maybe other people did not, but I thought it was good.
Hey, it's good.
And I have one more.
I'm with Tabor.
I have one more, let's say, proof or evidence. And I have to honestly admit that this is from Brian's Logic short video, because he is showing, and I cannot falsify that. So I take that it is true what he said, because I think it is very, very easy to falsify in public if it was false. Because he is talking about Australia, because he lives or lived many years in Australia. So I guess that he knows what he is talking about. And he is talking about time zones. So he compared United States to size of United States to Australia, and it appears from his evidence that from east to west, Australia is around 2,500 miles, if I am not mistaken. And the same size is for United States, from east coast to west coast, roughly. And so roughly at the same area in US, there are 4 or even 5 time zones. Correct me if I'm mistaken. You should, Kevin, know better than me.
There are 4 time zones.
4, yes. And for the same, guess how many time zones are in Australia?
I think there's more than 4, is there not?
No, 2.
There's 2. Okay.
2. So it would, if it is true, of course, it proves rather that it is a circle, but it also disproves the globe, because on the globe, from equator, it should diminish to the supposedly South Pole, yeah? So, and it is expanding. So below equator, it is still expanding. That's why there are only 2 time zones.
So a circle again. I just want to point that out. So a circle again.
Yes,
so
but not
still a shape,
not a ball.
but not a ball. Circle, but not a ball.
Okay, but and the circle is because of the sun, not because of. And I am not talking about entire Earth. So I can say only that this part that we can know is determined by the motion of the sun.
So you'll forgive me, but to me, that doesn't sound like we're talking about the sun. It sounds like we're talking about the land, whether it be the United States and or Australia in the example you cited from Brian's logic. So to me, again, circle. But we're not talking about sun. We're talking about land. So it's still
we're
circle.
talking about, let's say, world, not because there are oceans in between. So we are talking about world.
Circular world.
Not shape.
But circle is a shape. You see the implications, paper. Circle is a shape.
Yes, but this shape is given by the motion of the sun. So where sun is not reaching this region, I don't know what shape it is over there beyond reach of the sun. I don't know. So I don't claim that I know entirety of the world, because people live only where the sun is around, let's say. So where is day and night, then people can live. And what is beyond that, I don't know. So I don't know that I know entire shape of the world. But this, and even I cannot claim that, for example, this North Star is in the center of the Earth or center of the world. I don't claim that.
Okay.
But still,
the
this
circle
time
has
zones,
a center, though, doesn't it?
Yes,
Definitely
yes.
does.
But it doesn't mean that the center of, let's say, GP of this North Star is the center of the world.
There's
I
no
don't claim
such
that.
thing as a GP of a star.
Yes, it is
that's a conceptual thing.
conceptual. Yes, 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 yes,
and
yes.
I can't do that.
Okay, but still, that would, if we agree that there is some point that is directly below the North Star, I don't say it is the center around which celestial bodies are revolving, but it doesn't mean that this is center of entire world, and I don't claim that. So it is just center of motion of the stars.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in particular's directing any of this at you, Paper. You do seem very vocal about it, though.
Yes, and I am speaking for myself.
Yeah.
This is what I infer, how I process my thinking. I am trying to compare this, what I think, with visual, let's say, data, or, for example, this information about time zones. So I am trying to verify if my thinking is true, because I am sticking to Aristotelian definition of truth. So
Give me 1 second to cut in paper.
Okay.
I just want to let you know that I agree with everything you've said so far, and it's not just because I want to agree with you. I think along the same lines. So you guys could stop picking on paper, please.
I was waiting for somebody to say that. We're not picking on paper. This is a discussion about what certain people imagine or don't imagine, and why people imagine what they imagine. I mean, I don't have any. It's not that I didn't in the past. Hang on, Rob. Because I know you're joking in a way, but we have an audience here that also needs to hear, right? So I'm not saying that I never had a model or didn't have a model. What we here, many of us here, believe wholeheartedly is that one needs to let models go, and where you can have proofs, those are things that you don't need a model for, you have proofs for. So everything else is fair game. If you want to talk about whatever you think happens or whatever you think this world is, or gosh, we've talked about with Emma wants to know about Bigfoot. I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? It's just, does there end up being a conflation with reality and imaginings? That's really what it boils down to. And again, Lakota wins, just knocking it out of the park tonight. He asked, does latitude and longitude imply a model? That's a great question to ask. I don't know what anybody thinks about that, but does latitude and longitude imply a model? I would say yes.
I would say no.
Okay, I would say yes. So, but these are interesting conversations, right? Bev, what do you think, Bev?
Well, like I say, I go with the geometric understanding, and the discussion's up there to be had, without anybody getting upset about it, right? North, south, east, west, as 99.999% of the population would say, is there perpendicular?
Yes.
Now, given that 99.99% of the people, and ask them, do they imagine that when they see the sun, they're watching it go around them, or whether they're falling back away from it, one or the other, or are they just watching the sun go from one side to another? Like what?
Yep.
No, I don't think anybody can actually say, because nobody knows what the sun is. There are a few people that are in the chat that are going to be telling you they know everything. Stefan Mudd, he knows everything about everything. Yes. He's never done any of it, but he knows it. The shadow giants have told him, and they've definitely done it.
No need to find out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he can come into the chat and just tell everybody what the shadow giants have said, and that he knows everything without everybody else does.
To squelch all conversation, as we're having a nice conversation with Paper and Rob about maybe a little bit of difference that we might have, which also vies for the fact that we're not a cult, by the way.
Can I just point out what Stefan Mudd said? Because this is what we're dealing with here. Stefan Mudd says, if you move towards Polaris from Europe, USA, or China, everyone moves towards the same point on Earth. So Polaris, if you move towards Polaris, everyone moves towards the same point on Earth.
Yes, he's talking about this GP.
Yeah, exactly. He's put put a light in the sky on the ground and said, everybody go there. A point.
Yes, point in the sky, because, for example, if you have, for example, point, shining point on your ceiling, you can position yourself directly underneath this. So
I know you can do that with a light in the ceiling.
Yeah.
But a light in the sky?
Because
you can position yourself underneath a light in the sky?
I would say, why not?
I don't know.
For example, why not? Because
well, have you ever been outside and looked up to find out how you can position yourself underneath something?
By, for example,
hang on, wait, paper.
Plumber.
How do you position yourself under something that's always moving?
No. Because if it is a circle and stars are making circles, so it can happen that you are at some time at night, you are just underneath some star. It is not impossible. So, and by the way, astronomers are doing that. They can do that.
I think Stefan Mudd said that hundreds of people have been there.
Yeah, hundreds. Yep.
I don't know about hundreds of people.
How many do you know of that have been there and looked up at and measured 90 degrees from horizontal? Is the light in the sky?
No, you don't need horizontal. You can just put.
You can't hang a plumb bob because you can't look along the plumb bob. The plumb bob's in the way.
But you can put tube, because you don't need you can use like pinhole camera, but in shape of the tube, and just look through that, and because this
and that's
tube,
all anybody has to do now is put a picture up of a light in the sky and say, there you go, there's the proof, we did it. Hundreds of people have done it, and that's all Stefan Mudd has to do, and say, look, there's proof.
No, I'm not talking about proving anything by that. I can say that you can
I'm not saying that you would do. I'm saying people like Stefan Mudd can use what you're saying right now to prove their model, not yours. Theirs.
No. So he would be wrong. Okay, if he is trying to use what I say as a proof that he can prove, for example, his model, okay, no problem.
He's not. He's not going to use what you're saying. You're saying what he says. He's saying that people have already been there and done it. You saying that people can go there and do it. He said it's already been done.
Okay, because for me it is not impossible to do that. So for me it is very possible to put this tube in vertical position and look at the very small part of the sky, and if this, because star is revolving, let's say Orion is revolving, and if you in some let's say time of the night that Orion would pass through this tube and you can see this star through the tube, it means that you are just underneath the star. So this, for me, this is no problem. It is doable. Why not? Well, it's not rocket science to do that.
It's easy to say that you should be able to go there and do it, but the truth is, nobody's done it.
Nobody. I assume that it is already done by astronomers, even in ancient times. Why not?
Well,
to check
you're
if
going on an assumption.
Because for me it is just easy to do. I have no interest of doing that, but if I were astronomer, I would do that. Why not? Because it is, for me, it is very easy way to check if I am just beneath the star, because maybe it's seemingly I am, and I can check very easily, and I think that it is already done. Why not?
Interesting.
Would be interesting, wouldn't it?
It's very interesting.
I'm not doing that, but if I had money and time, and I don't have both, so I would check that. Why not? Because I think that it is
Stefan not even going to use it as a proof. It's just people have done it.
No, I am not using this as a proof of what? Of model?
No, that's what he's saying. He's not using it as a proof either, because nobody's actually done it. You can both say, you and Stefan can say that hundreds of people have done there, and of course they've been there and done it, and neither of you are using it as a proof. But hey, let's just carry on with the conversation where we're saying, where's the proof behind it? It sounds contradictory to me. And I can't go along with it because I've never done it myself. I can't see why it's not a regular thing that people are doing, like a trip to the pole to watch your compass spin around in circles. Right, where you can carry on walking north and then reach a place and then go beyond it, you're going south again. I mean, that would be very easy to prove, like you say. Of course people have been there, yet there's no evidence of it at all. Neither looking up, showing the light above in the sky, because there would be nerds around, right? There's a load of autists that would be able to know the mapping of all of the lights in the sky and everything, whether it's true or not. And there's not even anybody who'd been on there in a boat. I mean, when I was a kid, the North Pole was where Santa lived. Now, if you look on a map, there's no land there at all. It's just water.
It's pinpointed, though, according to Stefan Mudd. It's pinpointed position. The North Pole.
Stefan knows all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why he hasn't got a channel of his own doing all of this sort of stuff.
Well, why is he coming
just
here?
Goes around telling people other things. Well, we're just having a discussion about it, Stefan. If you want to come in and have a conversation about it, come and join us.
I would say that it is a funny thing that these guys who are making that kind of projections, because this is not a map, they are telling people that this is map on this North Pole, let's say, but it is not map because it is not mapped, so it is just untrue. So they assume that there is something there, and it is called North Pole or polar circle or whatever. And for me, it is not honest. It's not scientific. So, because it is not surveyed, absolutely. So they cannot say what is there.
The problem I have is the fact that they're called parallels, yet people think they're circles, which is contradictory. Parallels are not circles, yet the illusion of this trick allows people to believe that they are, because people need to be able to believe that straight lines are circles to be able to go along with either of these models. To me, that's the trick. And if you go along with it, then you're allowing that trick to be played out. to everybody listening.
Okay, but I can reverse this argument.
It's not an argument. It's just to point out to people that there are contradictions that everybody has to live with. If you imagine that latitude is a circle, then you have to believe that straight lines that are considered parallel are circles. You can have parallel circles.
I disagree. This is not implication. It does not imply. I disagree. Because because it is assumed that when you say that there are cardinal direction, for me it is assumption. And for me, this is convention for maps, cartography, and surveying. And
when I say that, Paper, I say that because the compass has a pivot point in the center. And north, south, east, and west are quadrants, so therefore they are perpendicular. That's when you say cardinal directions, you're holding a compass and you're actually looking at these quadrants. They are perpendicular. You can't get around that.
Yes, but these lines on compass are perpendicular. But if you stay at one point, so yes, it is pointing out somewhere to north, and other lines, of course, because they are already set to be perpendicular, so they are perpendicular, but it does not imply that when you are moving, this needle which shows north is not moving. In other words, you cannot check in reality, because compass is in reality, you cannot check that if you are going, for example, to west, and you are keeping this north needle to north, that you are not making circle. You cannot check that. How could you check that?
Well, you map the land, and then you move over the land, measuring angles to lights in the sky. I mean, I don't know why you do that, but they did. That's literally what they did. Because I assume that movement from A to B is okay when you can map the land, but then you've got to go on the water, and you can't tell distance, time, speed. There's nothing you can tell. You've only got one frame of reference to look at, and that is the lights in the sky. Especially when you know that one of them supposedly is fixed, so you can use that as a heading, which I'm pretty sure that they actually did. So when you go to a new place, you can then refer these whatever to the land in this new place.
Yeah, I agree. And for that place, even if it is as large as continent, let's say, so for example, for UK, there are cardinal directions and they work for UK. And there are cardinal directions which work for United States. From, let's say, from east coast to west coast. So that would be the size of the continent. And still, for me, it is not contradictory to what I think about latitudes and longitudes, because even if these longitude lines are radial lines from the center, this North Star or whatever, and even if latitude lines are circles, you have of course, you can draw a chord line, which is straight line, from, I don't know how in degrees this distance is expressed. 4 time zones, that would be 60 degrees. Yeah, am I right? 4 time zones, that would be 60 degrees. So between East Coast and West Coast in America, that would be 60 degrees. That would be the chord line.
Where's that angle being measured from? Is that angle on the azimuthal?
This angle is, of course, azimuthal. Yes, it's on horizontal plane. Difference between latitude and longitude is that longitude is vertical angle and latitude is distance between these lines of longitude, which is angle. It is horizontal, of course, horizontal angle. So there are 2 different angles. One of them is horizontal and the other is vertical.
Well, where's the latitude one going to? How do you get that angle? The longitude.
You are talking about the angle between longitude lines?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How does that get measured as an angle?
Because of time, you can say time zones, but it is related to the North Star. So it is center point of that measurement. So this is like grid, but not perpendicular grid, but radial grid. I don't know what the proper name that would be for that. For
so
that kind of grid.
Angle measured at the monadic position of the light in the sky.
Yes, would have to be.
No. Why? It is already assumed this North Star to be a center of motion of the stars. So from that we can, I think, measure angle.
Of the sun, though?
Yes, because
the sun doesn't rotate around the North Star.
I would say that it is. I would say that it is. I would say that many people think that it is rotating. Because it is, it seems to be so, I think.
Well, the sun
but
is
still,
going around the North Star, the Polaris. I've never even thought about that before. Okay, I can't. That's the first time I've ever thought about that. I don't know whether you could claim that a lot of people think that. Do you? I mean, I don't know. I've never even contemplated it before.
For me, it is like very clear. I cannot say that I have solid proofs, but for me, this is just it is like so. It is likely to be so, because stars are revolving around this Polaris. So why Moon and the Sun wouldn't? It seems that all celestial bodies are revolving around the same point, or on the same axis, let's say.
I don't know. I think you're going to end up struggling.
Lakota Wind, again, phenomenal, man. I'm telling you. Lakota, you have got to come into the Discord, man. All these questions are what lead to this arena. Now an impasse of impossibility has been reached. The globe can be shown to be false by its claims, but cannot be proven to be what is observed as flat.
And then Stefan Mudd says, which is typical globe sort of thing, he says, how do you get 1 degree per 111 means 69 miles?
Yep.
Per elevation change to Polaris as you
Elevation
move
change.
towards or away from it, if all horizontals are parallel?
I'm not talking, Stefan Mood, I am not talking about that you are changing elevation. I'm talking about
No,
star.
it just means an elevation angle. It's the
The
flat
magic
Earth
angle
thing. It's the
paper.
magic
Come on, you know.
flat Earth angle, isn't it?
Okay,
Yeah.
so if he's, I'm not implying that. I am not talking about that. So if he has problem, it is not my problem because
No, well, it's his problem, because he's asking it of us purposely. How can it be?
I would say I don't know how can it be because I don't imply that. Because
I can
if
show
he
him
is,
we did it. This is the whole thing that started flat Earth math.
No,
on his freak out. It's on the screen right now. That's how you can measure a 1 degree change over 69 miles. That's exactly how it works.
Okay, but so
Stefan, no, wait a minute, no, please, Stefan, show us how it would work otherwise, please. A measured angle, a change of 1 degree. Let us know. Because that's how they do it. They measure 69 miles and they measure an angle at one end and an angle at the other end. And it changes 1 degree, supposedly. Now, I've never done this, as I don't think anybody else has. I think Stefan says he's done it, but he's never measured 69 miles. He's never done that.
Lakota Wind hit it again. I just got to keep pointing this out. He says, yes, and now your geometry, I would just say geometry, but he says your geometry is the most threatening to these paradigms, to those paradigms. Yeah, that's why they've had to get rid of Euclid. That's why they've had to, we had someone come in today arguing that an axiom is not an axiom. An axiom is actually a postulate when the Greek word for axiom is axiom. We actually had a Greek person translate the Greek word that he translated postulate as axiom. I mean, of course, they've been fucking with Euclid for some time now. It's why they can't get the triangle axiom right. They call it the fifth postulate. Of course, this geometry is trouble. Yes, for both sides of this false dichotomy, because there's implications to this monadic existence, I would say, my claim, that people have in their minds. Geometry is a problem.
It's reality. It's just an extension of reality. Now, geometry being provable through demonstration in reality through books and all of that, it's just an extension of reality. You wouldn't be able to prove it if it wasn't. It's really strange to me. When I first came into this arena, asking a few questions of a surveyor, supposed surveyor, it seemed a little bit off, and I needed to talk to him to make sure that he wasn't lying. And it turns out he had to disappear, probably because, he was lying. And if he was a surveyor, his job would have been threatened for him saying stupid shit. So he's not here anymore. But since then, I've been talking to people within this arena, and they seem much like Jesse Kozlowski. There's no difference. People with, obviously, everybody has their own opinions, and why people aren't just allowed to have their opinions and it not turn into a, people have to support their own opinions to the death, as though they're being threatened or whatever. But the point is, the try-thinking moniker was to let people know that there are some things that you can't know. That's what geometry was there for, to let you know what you can know. Anything else, if it would have been knowable, it would have been put within that.
Yes, and that's why, for example, if we, like here now, we can disagree on certain things, and I'm not fighting to death to defend my position. Although I can say that I have moral certitude that I am right, but it still does not make me zealot that I will defend to death and attack opponents with violation because they think that the reality is different. And because there is no point of doing that. Because in fact, it doesn't matter what the shape or model, if the sun is making circles or not making circles. It is really not very important. I would say not important because we cannot change reality by talking about reality. Reality, it is what it is. And we don't have any influence on that reality because we cannot change path of the sun, for example. And there is no point to fight to death for anything in this world, I would say. But still, we can discuss, disagree, argue against, etc. Because this is how we learn what is discussion and maybe debate. So for me, it is no problem.
Yeah.
Can I just point out here, Stefan Mudd, I put it in the chat. Again, these are the sort of things that we need to start pointing out, because a lot of people say we don't understand geometry. Well, the people that say that are people like Stefan Mudd, and Stefan Mudd says it will not conform to all horizontals being parallel. If all horizontals are parallel, we end up with a right angle triangle. So does anybody want to inform Stefan of the geometry of why what he says there is an impossibility? Anyone?
He's talking about relationship between vertical and horizontal.
No, he's talking about a right angle triangle if all horizontals are parallel. So how do you get a right angle triangle if all horizontals are parallel?
You cannot have.
You don't.
Parallel lines cannot form triangle, so they cannot enclose the space from any side.
So why would Stefan Mudd be saying if it can't conform? Because if all horizontals are parallel, we end up with a right angle triangle.
No,
we don't. So
We don't.
Stefan, sorry, most people here understand these geometric principles of what parallels mean, and obviously the 12th axiom, maybe 13th axiom, depends which book you've got. Call it the 5th postulate if you want, but it's pretty obvious, Stefan, that you just don't understand it. And that's not me making claims. You've literally wrote it out how you do not understand. You don't get because you've got 3 lines, and if 2 of them are parallel, you can't make a right angle triangle.
Definitely cannot enclose a space. Again, I'll say Lakota Wind. He's on it, man. He's on it. Absolutely. I know it. So right after Stefan says that, Lakota Wind says it does mean people now have to try to exist without a model, a paradigm, a picture. Not knowing is a scary place. That's why the geometry is so scary, because that is something that can be known, but there are implications and there are consequences to that. And that, Lakota, you're exactly right, is a scary freaking place for some people. Not for people that have epohei and ataraxia. Look up those words, because then it's like, hey, I'm good with it. Either way, I just deal with reality. It doesn't really matter. As Paper said, right, when it gets right down to it, doesn't really matter. Doesn't really affect my life. It's something interesting to have a conversation about, but that's not going to be a hill that I'm going to die on by any means. But for some people, it's such a scary place that that's a hill that they'll die on every second of every day.
You can go there, Andrew. I'm not bothered about knowing about what's out there, because I know that you can't go everywhere, and you wouldn't trust everyone to go everywhere for you. So
exactly,
may as well just give it up.
They've talked about this all the time, right? Just get where have we heard this with Jaron and some other people? Like get on a plane, right? Two planes.
Somebody went out somewhere. They were. I think there was talk of somebody who was on his way out there to go to maybe
Antarctica.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, hey, go ahead.
Yeah.
But as that was being said, you know, I think somebody, I don't know if it was Dave Weiss or it was Jaron, somebody there was saying, you know, you get your group of people and our group of people, and we split them up between two camps, and each one of them get on a plane. I'm not trusting any of you sons of bitches. I'm sorry. You can get on your plane, get on another plane, cut yourself in half, and put yourself on both planes. I really don't care. I'm not going to believe it because I don't trust the shadow giants. If anything specifically in the last 3 years has shown us, shadow giants are not to be trusted, no matter where they come from or what they actually believe, even if they believe what I think and believe.
I think Stefan's arguing with Nathan. You should go over to Nathan and argue it with him, Stefan.
Ooh, yeah.
Like horizontals, all horizontals are parallel. Like it's required. It's hydrostatic equilibrium. It's a known thing. So just put it on your model and deal with it. Like, don't be trying to measure angles, because that's not how you prove that horizontals are parallel. I don't know why you imagine that an elevation angle means anything fantastic. It's just an angle in the vertical plane. So, I mean, you're in the wrong place, Stefan. You should really go over to Nathan Oakley and have a word with him. He'd probably make more sense of it. You'd be arguing with the correct person there. We don't give a shit about your elevation angles to lights in the sky.
Magic angles.
Yeah. Our proofs come within reality, and they are normally relating to the thing that we're dealing with, not angles to lights in the sky. It's ridiculous. I don't know why it was ever brought. In fact, there was a video that I wanted to put out, but for some reason, of all of the videos that YouTube would not let me
I know why.
out, it's one video. And that is when Brian's Logic and Flat Earth Egypt came round here to sell us the ridiculous sextant argument. And we said, no, it's fucking stupid. So it's unfortunate it hasn't gone out. I don't know what it was that wouldn't let it go out either.
Me either. I can't imagine
what
happened there.
Well, actually, I don't know why your video didn't go out, but I know why they like this sextant argument. Because it gives them a horizontal, and they hate the water level.
It doesn't give them a horizontal. That's the one thing the sextant doesn't.
Okay, you know what I mean when I say that, though, so let's maybe clarify it.
Nathan Oakley thinks...
They have an angle. Okay.
Nathan Oakley thinks you get a horizontal from a sextant because he's been sold it by 10th man.
Right, forget names. Everybody who uses the sextant argument thinks they have a horizontal baseline, but they hate the water level.
But it's not that anyway.
I understand.
The horizontal.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
They think they have a horizontal.
Yes. They keep saying that they have a horizontal, but they don't. Because a sextant is not a tool for establishing a horizontal plane of reference.
Yeah,
Now,
I guess
you
maybe, Ben,
can
you missed
put
my last
bubbles
sentence,
on
which
them.
was they hate the water level
Who hate the water
because
level?
it's yours. Everybody who uses the sextant argument hates a water level because they don't understand how it works.
But it's got nothing to do with the sextant. It's like this, their argument is about a
I'm sorry,
horizontal
man.
that they don't have.
Sorry, I think I understand. I don't think you and I are speaking on the same wavelength here. They think they have a horizontal, which wins their argument. They think they have a horizontal. The reason they don't use an actual horizontal tool is because you use it as your proof.
Well, it was the statement I came into this arena with. Level is horizontal. I was asked to prove it. And I did. But I had to prove it to myself first. Like, that's the thing that I learned in this arena, was that when somebody challenges you to prove something, they're only challenging you. Nobody had ever challenged me to do something like that before. And I relished it. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. Being able to prove something, finding out where proof comes from, all sorts of stuff that you can go back to first principles. Anyone can do it. That proof thing is there for everyone. So for somebody to grab hold of a sextant because they don't want to get an established proof within reality for themselves, oh, that seems crazy to me. But if that's what people want to do, want to carry on arguing these circular arguments, that's fair enough. Imagining, like Andrew's there talking about a capability of the military. For what? What is it you want to do? Do you want to go everywhere? Because I don't think you could do that. It's not possible to do everything and go everywhere. You have to decide what it is that you want to do. I don't know why most people are in this arena, because I think most people are trying to find proofs for themselves. They're trying to work shit out. But people like Stefan Mudd, I don't know what he's trying to work out. Asking, do bubble sextants establish a horizontal? No. Well, maybe a local horizontal, but not over massive distances. Like we heard Flatzoid last night thinks that a sextant goes infinite. A horizontal is established infinitely. Well, it isn't. If there's a bubble on a sextant, it works for the sextant's distance of the sextant, which is probably about 8 inches or whatever.
Yes, you have limit of accuracy. So this horizontal line or plane established by any tool is just approximation. You cannot have ideal horizontal within physical reality.
I think I heard somebody saying the other day that the bubble sextant is just for land. They're the land sextants. Can't use them on a boat.
No, strange.
Yeah. Strange. Where I heard that. It might have been in Oakley. Right. That's took a bit, hasn't it? Nearly 10 o'clock. Are we going to save the Flatzoid thing for tomorrow? Do you wanna?
As you wish.
So we're a bit late now, aren't we? It's 10 to 10. That's been a good conversation, though. Should we do more conversations like this? What's everyone think?
These have been the best couple of hours of this show in a few weeks. Thank you very much.
Wow. Just conversations, though, right? Stefan,
Yeah.
you should come in and have a conversation about it.
Yes, without triggering yourself or others. So we are not triggered by any claim. So we can discuss everything, I think.
Oh, Stefan, he's going with the horizontal sextant. I've always said, Stefan, I really do think that the Flat Earth Society work together. Yeah, Andrew, there's I'm not such a defeatist. Well, I know what I can do, and I'm happy with knowing that I've already achieved proof that I wanted. So I'm okay. I'm fine. I don't need to be a defeatist. If you want to go to places, then that's up to you, Andrew. You do what you do. Don't be letting other people say that we should be doing certain things that you want to do. I mean, I'm all right. Just honest talk for conversations that we have in reality. Now, people can have these conversations. Nobody's saying you can't have the conversations. There's not really much need for name calling and all of that sort of stuff when we do have these conversations. If you know something, then come down and explain it. Give us your best rhetoric. Improve your own rhetoric for the things that you know. Click on the Discord. Come on in. Especially you, Stefan. You've been chatting in the Discord, in the YouTube comments for years. He's got tons of proof. He's got proof of everything. He's done these angle measurements himself, and he can prove it's 1 degree over 69 miles, he says. He can use spherical, I don't know whether it's changed to spherical trig or not. I think it was spherical geometry to prove all sorts of things. And I know that there is obviously people out there that have to continue the false narrative. Just have to push back against simple truths. They've taken logic out of the schooling system. All they need to do now is push some delusion, people that want to imagine that they know everything because they've read Shadow Giants. I agree to not use name calling. Address the argument, not the person. No proof but evidence, Bev. What does that even mean, Stefan?
Okay, I can agree with 2 first sentences, but addressing the argument is proving, because argument is attempt to prove. So if someone is making counter argument, it means that this person is going to disprove other argument, not evidence.
Well, like we've said, we have made the arguments, and it's Stefan that hasn't addressed them.
Yes, for example, this modus tollens. If the Earth is flat, there would be no measurable changes in elevation. And this is argument. And in order to address that, to falsify the validity of this argument, someone should say that measurable changes are not disproving shape of the Earth.
Yeah, that's what they say, isn't it? They try and put it in a conflation of topography with the baseline or something. I don't know, however they want to do it.
Yes.
Or they say that no flat earther ever makes that argument, I've heard.
Yes,
like, but I'm
still,
not a flat earther, and I did make that argument.
Yes, but still, addressing this argument. So what John said, because originally that was John's statement, that you are conflating horizontal baseline with something else. But yes, it was attempt to address, but
oh no, Stefan switched it. He switched it.
Okay, but never mind. It doesn't matter what Stefan is switching. The counter argument would be to prove that changes in elevations are not disproving flatness of the Earth.
No, he's saying if the horizontals are parallel. He's gone back to his ridiculous one that we just proved ridiculous earlier. But we're just pointing this one out. This one is if all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon. In which case he would need to address that. Because since that's what he's talking about, parallel horizontals.
Yes, but it has nothing to do with your argument.
That argument is the argument. Is the if all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon, then all horizontals will be parallel to each other. That's the argument that Stefan's trying to say. He's trying to say, if that's true, then you make triangles to lights in the sky. That's his rebuttal. Yeah, I think so. That's what he's saying.
So in order to address that, he had to conduct proof with lemma, or even more lemmas, to prove that. So at least one or two syllogism or modus ponens or modus tollens or whatever, or reductio ad absurdum, whatever. Some kind of inferring should be to link horizontals being parallel and right angle triangle. I cannot do that, but maybe he can do that. I don't know, but let's do that. Let him do that. But he's not conducting any argument here.
I don't know how it ends up with us having a right angle triangle. Like, you can't say that horizontals being parallel ends up with you having a right angled triangle, Stefan. That's ridiculous.
Yes,
that sounds like he's working for Nathan Oakley there. Like,
maybe, but still, maybe I cannot assume that he's entirely wrong. I can just say that he's not making an argument. That's all. So he cannot, for now, prove that it is the case, that there is some relationship between your proof and his claim about triangles. the burden of proof is on him. He has to link this horizontals being parallel to triangle. I am not saying that it is impossible, but the burden of proof to prove that there is a link between these two statements, the burden of proof is on him.
GP of the ground position of the observer to the ground position of the
okay, this is another claim.
Yeah.
How it is linked to
horizontals being parallel.
Horizontal, yeah.
Why
Because
does
you
that disprove horizontals being parallel?
Yes.
That's what I'd like to know. How does that disprove, Stefan? Because we're interested in the proof discussion of how these links happen between something happening in reality and then a conclusion. But it's that place in between where proof exists. And I would like to understand where you place that proof from horizontals being parallel to a light in the sky to horizontals not being parallel.
Yes, because the argument should have form of modus ponens, for example.
No, this one should be a modus tollens. It would be if all horizontals are parallel.
Then
you can't make a triangle.
Okay,
or that
but
you can make a triangle. I don't know how it would. Like, that's where Stefan, please help us out, mate.
Yes, because for me, for now, it sounds like non sequitur. But why? Why non sequitur? Because someone should use the same predications in antecedent and consequent. So two subjects, if the two subjects have same predication, then you can establish link between them. But there is no such thing in Stefan's, let's say, attempt to argue. So this is hard work to make an argument. This is not so easy just to state two sentences and link them together just because they are together. One statement and another, and they are side by side, and therefore they are creating argument. No. You have to create argument in certain strict way.
Yeah, I think.
Or,
like, he's saying there, right, that your claim, all horizontals are parallel, ends up with us having a right-angled triangle between the observer and the line, right? Well, the argument states, if all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon, then all horizontals must be parallel to each other, right? And you carry on, right, and get to the conclusion that all horizontals are parallel. But there is a corollary that states the plane of the horizon will always be horizontal. Now, it doesn't state anything about right-angled triangles within the corollary, because it's just not. And that should be a sign to Stefan that there's a piece missing between the argument for horizontals to be parallel and some right-angled triangle to a light in the sky. There's no link at all.
yes, and by the way, if he is trying to disprove something, so he would start from this conclusion, because this is how lemma is proceeding. That you have conclusion from syllogism, for example, therefore all horizontals will be parallel to each other. So because this is conclusion from this argument, then you can use in lemma, you can use this conclusion as premise, for example, in next syllogism, because it is proven so you can say that it is very solid premise in next argument. And
Something
then you are,
like all perpendiculars to those planes will also be parallel.
yeah, this is, yes. So this is based on this, because based on this, you can create another proof. And by the way, if you are trying to disprove something, you are creating this lemma, and then you can create reductio ad absurdum. That would disprove that premise. So we are waiting, for example, for a syllogism or modus ponens or tollens, which will end with contradiction or nonsense or absurd, that would disprove Bev's proof. That would be nice. I don't think personally that it is possible, but still, that would be the way to disproving or addressing Bev's argument.
He's asking us a question. Have you heard it?
If I establish a horizontal at my position, yes, this.
Well, then the question comes, will this horizontal be parallel to the horizontal established at Polaris GP? Well, if the statement is that all horizontals are parallel, do you really need to ask that question? Like, does it really matter where the Polaris GP is? Because the horizontals would all be parallel anyway.
Yes, and by the way, why he is trying to use, this is like a flat earth mass or blue marble science. One point is in London and another in Johannesburg or whatever. So you cannot compare these 2 points. And GP of the star, nobody were there. So, sorry.
Yeah, he's
why
trying to
you
say for his argument to continue, we have to answer a question. Just state your argument, Stefan. There's no need to put it into a riddle. Just come out with your argument. Like, our arguments are dead well established. You can read them. You've been reading them for months. They've been out there. Meaned.
No, this is sophistry. No, for the argument to continue, no, this is not a requirement, because this question is not helping with your argument.
Says thank you for conceding that horizontals will
That's
be
funnier
parallel.
than hell.
That's the argument, Stefan. The argument states that all horizontals are parallel. It's not a concession. It's a conclusion of the argument.
Yeah.
So well done, Stefan. Well done. Now, where do you go from there? Let's have your rebuttal to that argument, please. Carry on. Let's hear it. Although we know that there is no argument comes from the globe model. There's no positive argument. There isn't even any modus tollens you could come up with. Logic's foreign. Argumentation is foreign to the globe. Although we can have challenged. I mean, loads of us have been... we're quite into arguments here, and there are arguments that can prove the globe dogmatic. That prove the dogmatic globe. Like, we can do that. We do it with, it's quite a funny way to actually, we do it through reductio ad absurdums that have to be accepted. But first, we have to deal with the simple arguments to show you the fun ones and the hilarity that ensues once you start along this line of argumentation. Like, what? Stefan, are you sure you understand what's going on here?
We have a triangle without knowing length of the sides. So that would be infinite triangle?
An imaginary triangle. This is where imaginary geometry started. From the very thing that Stefan's having to do right now. In order for them to justify the model to themselves and to everybody else. This is the type of thing that has to occur. You have to convince people of an imaginary triangle that just isn't there. Through geometric trickery. I've been telling people for quite a while. The magic is performed through an angle. It's very simple.
The trick here that Stefan Mood is using, willingly or not willingly, is that when he is talking about this GP of the star, there is hidden assumption that we know where it is on Earth, or sea or whatever, but we don't know. We cannot check that. So please don't use unknown thing as known.
It's quite interesting what he's done though, right? It's sort of a reverse stolen concept in the fact that he says, since the horizontal at my position and the GP of Polaris are parallel, because the horizontals are parallel, then we end up having a right angle triangle. Trigonometry give evidence for having linear change in elevation angles to Polaris. In a right angle triangle, it's not possible. So it's a reverse stolen concept where he's ending up with his model and imagining it not being possible. Even though this 1 degree for every 69 miles is a linear change. Right? Linear.
But it is not.
Well,
it is not.
Well, 1 degree for 69 miles is exactly the same as the 1 to 100 linear relationship within the optics of an auto level. It's just set at 1 to 100, not 1 degree to 69 miles, as in,
yes,
reportedly happens in reality.
Yes, but still, because he said that trigonometry give evidence for having linear change in elevation angles to Polaris. This is not true.
No, but it is true that the linear change is exactly the same as what happens through the scope of an auto level in reality. When
yes,
something
with given
moves further away.
Yes, but in particular angle. So from
well, it's more of a distance within the auto level the study has. It's a relationship of the distance, where as you can't tell what distance it is. So they replace that known distance and change through distance, vertical distance, as an angle with a sextant.
Yes, but
same trick.
Yes, but still, it is not true, because if we are measuring this angle to Polaris, the distance, for example, if we have, let's say, that from 45 to 46, it is 69 miles, it doesn't mean that from 46 to 47 is exactly 69, because it cannot be due to trigonometry, because this is false statement. Trigonometry does not give us for having evident linear change. Even within trigonometry, it is impossible.
Isosceles, you need an isosceles. You need to double it up in order to make it just like an auto level, and the study has. And the relationship that way, because it works as above, so below, whereas these guys are only taking about the above part of it.
Yes, so they are taking, because this right angle is opposite angle to this angle that you are measuring. So
yeah, well, forget about the angle that you're measuring, because that's the trick, right? In reality, you can measure with the measuring rod and have a direct proportion for the distance to what you are measuring, right? That is a known fact, and this distance that you measure between the crosshairs has to be perpendicular to the center line, and it's proportional, right?
Yes,
now,
I agree.
When you do that, it's never precisely exact. It's not trigonometric, like Stefan Mudd likes to say, because there's optics involved in it, and it's approximate, let's say, within a certain range, 1 to 100, but you can't be precise like trigonometry. Trigonometry can be ideally accurate, precisely accurate. So it's not, not what happens in reality. Now, if you want to imagine that you're doing that just using half of the stadia hairs and doing it without actually measuring that distance and pretending that you can just measure one angle and then do all of the rest of the thing, imagine that one angle is the same as measuring that vertical distance precisely, then you've been fooled by the angle trick. Al Biruni, Ruhif, Nathan Oakley, Flatzoid, anybody that's wanting to tell you that you can do things, magical things with angles that you can't do in reality. You require other tools.
By the way, this ratio 1 to 100 is because, so it is very, let's say, thin angle, thin triangle. And this is because there is discrepancy, because according to trigonometry, it is not linear, but with that kind of ratio, it is very close to linear at certain distance only.
Yeah, within the optics of the tool, right? And because you have to be able to measure that distance at the other end. If you can't see it to measure it, then it cannot be measured accurately. That's the limits of the tool, the limits of the ability for you to do this approximate geometry. It's just like a rule of thumb to be able to measure it not accurately.
Yes, but Stefan Mudd's argument is that
it's about the angle.
That he has linear, and I disagree. Trigonometry does not give you at every angle.
No, what he's doing, Stefan's getting mixed up with the actual process in reality, right? Because this ratio of these stadia hairs to the distance is linear.
Yeah, but it is specifically set to be as such.
Yeah.
Within the
geometry proves it is linear. Because you're using straight lines and the relationship of the distance to the vertical distance of 1 to 100. That's the idea of you being able to do that. Now that has a proof within Euclid for that very process. You'd be surprised which one. Which one do you reckon it is?
No, I have no idea.
It's the bridge, isn't it? The bridge of acids. It's the equal angle at either side of the
Can I just give a quick interruption?
Yeah, do you want to go for a bit? Because I need to nip off to the toilet, so off you go.
Well, all I wanted to say is maybe we want to look into Brian Leakey's channel. Apparently, there's some sort of debate between Jeranism and MC Kuhn again. That ought to be interesting. pals and buddies all hanging out. I don't know, maybe Kevin or Paper, you're around. You can talk for a minute because I gotta go back on mute, and that's not here.
So you are
Say
saying
anybody.
that there is debate on which channel?
Jeranism's channel. This
He's
not
debating
MC Tune.
with
MC Tune.
MC
Yeah.
Tune.
Yeah. I gotta go back on mute for a minute though. I'm really sorry.
Okay. But still, my point being that with this angle to Polaris, and by the way, it was Brian Leakey who is disproving this single ratio. So 1 degree is not always 69 miles, because if you are going lower and lower with this angle, the distance is increasing, and it cannot be otherwise. So 1 degree at certain, let's say 45, I don't know really, but let's say at 45 will cover 69 miles, but at 30 degrees, for example, it will cover more. So it is not one ratio. So I don't know what Stefan Mood is trying to prove, because this is false statement that with this trigonometry and this, let's say, sextant argument, you cannot have this equal distance at each degree, because it is impossible. And Brian Leakey was addressing that like a year ago or even more. So Stefan would go to Brian's Leakey calculations because he is addressing that point. It is not linear and cannot be.
The 1 to 100 is linear, though.
Yes, but you have this narrow angle. That's why
it has to be a narrow angle, yeah, because you need to get the bottom of the angle into the shot. It's got to be done. That's why there's a limit to it, because we even did that when we've been out testing to see how far you can go and when you lose the bottom stadia to the ground, because it is a certain distance away. You just lose the ability to measure the distance within it. We've done it a couple of times.
Yes, so you are measuring this angle, let's say, this ratio is very close to perpendicular to this middle crosshair line. So you are not going this upper and lower angle, so not in the middle, because these angles,
They have to be equal, though, because that's the idea of proposition 5.
Yes, they are equal because this is isosceles triangle, but the crosshair, this middle crosshair, is cutting this isosceles triangle into 2 right angle triangles.
Yes.
So, and this angle, let's say this hypotenuse, is also very narrow. It is very close to perpendicular.
Yeah.
So because you have very short baseline, I would say.
Yeah, it's a disproportionate right angle triangle for that purpose.
Yeah, yes, because
for trigonometry it would be a disproportionate triangle. For practical observational trigonometry, it's a disproportionate triangle, and they don't do that. But Stefan Mudd's obviously been taught by Jesse Kozlowski or by the model. I'm not too sure. It's what's required of the dogmatic globe model we're dealing with now. We're not dealing with reality or, you know, what actual practical methods. We're dealing with people imagining that the globe model has these sort of necessities. And you see he's struggling quite hard. And do you know why they've changed from miles to kilometers? Does anyone know why?
But still, I don't know why, but still, now he is admitting that the distance between every degree in a right angle triangle will increase as you move away from. Yes, that was my point. So it means that this ratio is not cannot be constant. So it doesn't mean that at every degree it would be 69 miles or whatever, because it would increase. So if at one angle would be 69 miles, so at lower angle, it would be more, not 69, but maybe 70 or 71.
So the angles in reality do not conform to the argument. Which argument, Stefan?
Yes.
Like
no argument, still no
what
argument
angles?
from
The
Stefan.
only angles that are in any argument are yours, Stefan. We just talking about horizontals being parallel. And where's the angle there? Because there isn't one.
So I cannot see the point why he's talking about this measurements to Polaris, because it would be no use. But remember, he is trying to prove that parallel horizontals have something to do with triangle, supposedly.
It's just a 1 degree change from the position you're at to the next position, 69 miles away. If you want to ask a question, you should be asking, is that a straight line between those 2 points, Stefan? In between point A of 30 degrees and point B of 31 degrees, is that a straight line, Stefan? Because it would be the baseline of the angle, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Or just an angle, any old angle that you've measured. It's just a random angle. Or is there some connection between point A and point B? Does that 69 miles actually mean anything? Or is it just sort of a random number that you just throw in to just link 2 random angles together? Or is that distance some sort of a qualifier of part of the angle to link the 2 angles together? I don't know whether, you know, like this argument particularly, I've heard quite a few times in many different forms. And it's just an angle. I noticed that originally this was Al-Biruni, right? But the arena has had to have its own play around that. Whereas everybody's forgotten about that one. That little trick. Because they can't work it out. So they've gone to a new one.
Stefan Mood. Asking question is not making an argument. Because it seems that he's trying to build his argument as an answer to his question. I don't know. It doesn't work that way. It is very simple to state argument, not asking question. Questions are not arguments.
Will not the horizontal. What? what's not the horizontal? Stefan. Will not the horizontal between the observer and the GP? What's not the horizontal? What's that? Because that's a really weird question. Let us know what not the horizontal is.
I would say that will the horizontal between the observer and the GP of Polaris be not straight line?
I haven't got a clue where the GP of Polaris is. You're getting us to try to enter your imaginary place, Stefan. Like the GP, the Polaris is a light in the sky. It doesn't have a ground position. It's a light in the sky. Come up with your definition of what you mean that to be, and then we can work from that. But lights in the sky don't have a position on the ground because they're in the sky. Things in the sky aren't on the ground. I think we had one of these, a celestial argument.
Yes, because in fact it is projection in straight line vertically to the ground or to the map, in fact.
Well, nobody's ever hung a plumb bob on a light in the sky to prove that. So that's a ridiculous claim, again.
Yeah, you cannot check that because you cannot be there. So you cannot check where it is. And you cannot measure distance between your previous position and this even GP position. So it is impossible by two ways.
But
in
that's
two ways,
an
it is
argument
impossible.
that's been talked about, isn't it?
Yes, it is attempt, but it is impossible. So someone cannot create an argument by making impossible examples. So this is not good way to bring evidence or argument. This is not how convincing evidence or argument should work.
Yeah.
Should
Well,
be based
we do
on
have an
axioms.
argument of a statement that you can do fuck all with an angle, really, which means there's no geometric conclusions that you can come to basing around this sort of thing. There we go, put it there. What Stefan Mudd's attempting to do, not only Stefan Mudd, Nathan Oakley too, and Flatzoid, and countless other guys, is they want to get you to imagine a light in the sky on the ground to have an equal footing as the position that you are when you measure the angle. Which is impossible.
Impossible, yeah.
Because you're above the ground. You literally are. Call it 4 foot. Call the length of the line 1 billion kilometers. You're still 4 foot off the ground. That distance means that you're not horizontal, because the position of the light, which you assume to be on the ground, is below your actual position that you're measuring the angle from. It's not geometric at all. None of this stuff ever has been or ever will be. Just measuring an angle and then doing calculations. I mean, I was watching a video on the almanac, and to get latitude they used the moon. and it took them 6 hours to do the calculations involved. Listening to Nathan Oakley, it's a little bit different, isn't it?
Yes, just an angle and
yeah.
You saved the lives.
Yeah. So, really, if you want to know what's going on, there's a trick being played by, well, initially there's one trick being played by a certain group of people that needed to start an argument that was never really there. So they need to have two different sides to have this argument. But since then, people have fallen into this, call it a trap, but I don't think it is. I think the two sides of this original, call it a dilemma, they've fallen into this familiarity within the argument. And whenever they deal with reality now, it becomes a problem because it's not what they're used to. They don't know how to step out of that old argument and just enter an argument in reality. Look at Stefan Mudd. I mean, he's full on globe, and he's arguing a globe versus flat earth argument to people who aren't flat earthers. He's like still trying to go on about a ground position of a light in the sky. Totally ridiculous. It's just obvious, Stefan, you can't do what you're claiming to do. But you're still thinking you're involved in a flat earth argument. It's ridiculous. We told 10th Man, well, we told Brian's Logic, the representatives of 10th Man, and that was a shakedown order. We've got to get on board. And we said, no, it's a ridiculous argument. But Stefan Mudd's here pushing for it as though it's still an argument, trying to convince people that his argument's still going to keep going when it's a non-argument. It's nothing there, Stefan. It's not a problem for us at all.
Yes, the problem with this Polaris measurement, Polaris angle measurement, is that, in fact, your only thing that you can operate with is that with 1 degree, not every one, but just 1 degree from certain angle to certain one angle, 1 degree difference, someone supposedly has 69 miles, and you have to already assume this distance to this GP, because otherwise you cannot have the length of hypotenuse, because without length of hypotenuse you cannot position this GP. And so you don't know the length of hypotenuse. So in fact, you cannot position this GP where you would put without knowing distance to the star. I am talking about this hypotenuse distance. It is impossible. Or someone has assumed distance to Polaris, for example, in vertical datum. But it should be also assumed. So it is impossible to put this GP at certain location. If you don't know distance to the star, you cannot do that.
Okay, Stefan Mudd says, the problem for you is to explain the linear change in elevation angles to star GPs in your all horizontal parallel argument.
Oh, now he's reversing burden of proof on
Okay,
us.
all right. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to explain it by a linear change within the optical tools of the tool that establishes horizontal. So all horizontals are parallel. And within the optics of the tool that establishes it, there is a linear relationship within the tool. It's inbuilt in. Stadia has, Stefan. That is my explanation for a linear change in reality using the tools with parallel horizontals. Now, if you don't think that's good enough because I didn't use the lights in the sky, well, lights in the sky wouldn't come into a proof of anything. So I can explain the linear relationship of this optical change of something in the distance. That's possible. That's definitely doable, and it's provable. We've already proved it. When I came into this with the limited surveying that I had, which is much more than anybody else in this arena, that knowledge, I knew that the Stadia hairs did what they do. And I did know that there was a geometric relationship between those Stadia hairs and the linear relationship of what they do. I was surprised that Jesse Kozlowski had never mentioned him, ever. They'd been there in the optics of every tool that you've ever seen a picture of, and yet they want to call Flerspective. It's not. It's a measurable linear change over distance. Obvious. There's a proof there in reality. Take it or leave it. Over to you, Stefan. Let's go. 1 to 100 within the optics of the tool. In reality, linear. Picture there on the screen for you. Have a look. That's the angle that Ruhith imagines. Well, it's got nothing to do with that. It's the distance, the vertical distance, a comparison to the horizontal distance. Two distance proportions. Like everything in reality, right? A relationship of something to something else. But usually straight lines when we're dealing with geometry. And you can tell it's straight lines with this proportionality because it's linear.
Yeah, yeah.
See, the problem is, if they had a curving Earth like they imagine that they have with a level that curves, that's not linear.
Yes, you cannot have this ratio.
The linear is a Euclidean reality thing. So, Stefan, I don't know what you're doing. It's a pity that nobody else is really taking on any of this geometric argument or the geometric reasoning, because there's a load of people that have pushed people away from it by imagining that you can do fantastic things with angles. You can't. But you can prove things within reality using the tools that we have in reality. And it's so strange that people have not bothered looking at this. We have. We've been over many of these things. Maybe the conversations that we've had when we've done it have been in here. And we've been keeping these conversations for people in this arena, you know, within our Discord server. Because the moment people like Stefan Mugg get hold of this sort of talk and these conversations and these tools being able to prove the linear relationship in reality, well, what do you think's going to happen?
No, he responded. We don't use Stadia to measure the angles. Yes, because these angles are already set there. You are not measuring angle.
That angle can't represent all of those different lines. It's impossible. It doesn't work like that. It's a proportionality for the distance horizontally in this case, and vertically gives you a linear relationship.
Yes, so with fixed angle, you are measuring proportion between horizontal distance and vertical distance. That's the ratio which is given by this particular angle. And this angle is constant. That's why you can keep this ratio. I don't know why.
Stefan, look in the picture. Can you see there is two right angle triangles that give you this linear relationship? Like in reality, Stefan, in optics, within the tool, it's a surveying tool. They put those lines in there for a purpose, for this purpose. Don't tell us we can't do it. It's done. That's one of the most ridiculous things anybody could be saying.
Yes, because I saw this study, this hairs, crosshairs. So there are three. So the middle is this horizontal, which is cutting the isosceles triangle into two. And I assume that the upper crosshair is this end of baseline of triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And bottom crosshair is for this bottom part of triangle, isosceles triangle.
Yep.
So that's it. It is already set in the tool. You are not measuring angle because this isosceles triangle is already there.
Well, actually, when you think of this, this is two lines within a film that's put over the lens. So your eye is where the angle is.
Yeah,
You're
yes, I know.
looking at the lines. So that's your eye angle. You can't measure that. It's impossible to measure that angle. You can calculate it.
You can calculate, yes, but still
But you wouldn't need to calculate it. All you need to do is make sure the lines are far enough apart that when you are 100 meters away, you're measuring 100 centimeters in the rod. 50 higher, 50 lower. That's it.
Yes, I agree. I agree. But still, Stefan is saying that it is for measuring. You are not measuring any angle because they are set. They are carved in stone, these angles. You cannot change them.
No, see, that's Ruhif and the ruler on the pictures, the opposite side angle. This is the one that Flatzoids seem to want to go along with. The one that Nathan's gone along with. The entire you can do fuck all with an angle was derived around this angle that Ruhif imagines the auto level has. This is Ruhif. This is where Ruhif imagines this angle. That the statement was said towards Ruhif and this particular angle. Now, isn't it strange that this is the thing that Stefan Mudd's bringing, which is the angle to a light in the sky, which 10th man's using?
Yes, and by the way, if you have, for example, camera, you can change, and you do change focal point, which is changing of angles, because you are changing the focal point in the camera, and it means that you are changing angles, this angle of refraction in the lens, because of course you are not using one lens in the camera.
Yeah, we're
talking
about.
Wait. What kind of point was that there, Paper?
Focal point.
Oh, I thought you said something else.
Focal point. It is where this incoming, let's say, rays are
Yeah, no. I'm with you. I just thought you called it something else.
no focal point this time.
Thank you, Paper.
Not focal length, focal point. And if you are changing that, you are changing the whole ratio. But it is not possible with stadia hairs and auto level, because in auto level already it is fixed. You cannot change that.
I understand. I love your accent, I think is what it is.
My English accent is horrible,
Yes.
but my Polish
it's
accent
fantastic.
stays intact and perfect.
Yeah, the trick within this is that you need the proof is rather hilariously the bridge of asses, that you need an isosceles triangle, whereas these asses don't understand that and want to use right-angled triangles. Look at Stefan, he can't stop himself telling us about right-angled triangles when it's got nothing to do with a right-angled triangle. It's the proportionality of a vertical to a horizontal using isosceles triangles. Isosceles triangles only have the right-angle triangle because of the symmetry that's involved within.
Yes, so height of the triangle is cutting to the half with this isosceles triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike that in, let's say, irregular triangles. So in that case, height is not in the middle, is not cutting baseline into two equal parts. But the isosceles triangle, yes, has this height cutting baseline into two identical parts. That's why it is used.
Yeah, Stefan's imagining he can do all sorts of stuff with right-angled triangles, but you just measure one angle, Stefan. If you're going to be honest about it, you've got a sextant and you're measuring one angle. No distances, no triangles, just one angle. That's it. And that's where the argument stops. Because as we've seen, nobody's been able to go to step 2. And it definitely, if they ever were to get to step 2, I can guarantee it would not be a geometric proof that we are getting. It's not going to be a syllogism of any sort.
No, I cannot expect that. So it is just wishful thinking, let's say.
Yeah, I'm not saying, Stefan, that you can't measure angles. That's ridiculous. You can go out and measure an angle wherever you want. You could turn around. You could turn 90 degrees, measure another angle. You could just keep going like that all day, measuring loads of angles.
Yes, what Ruhi suggested, because he didn't say that explicitly, because he is a sophist, but he suggested that you are measuring angle, that you are measuring some angles with auto level. No, angle is fixed. That's why this ratio is constant, because with changing angles, you will change ratio. So with a fixed angle within stadia hairs and your eye, you have linear proportion. That's why you can ignore angle and just measure vertical distance.
There you go. That's the first one that he did when he was in his mate's. He was in his mate's house and they set up an auto level on his balcony and he looked out over the water. And then he drew that there. Which is what he did that at Ranties. I had to go over and have a word with him about that.
Yeah, that's why you cannot use pictures and rulers, because you don't know focal point, where this focal point is, because you don't know what type of camera, what limits of changing focal points is in this camera, and you just need to provide very detailed information about this picture and specifically about this camera. So it is just impossible to make that claim that you can do something, that you can measure some angles within picture. It is impossible. It is impossible.
I like that, Lakota. Might be able to put that in the official Try Thinking store. North Pole indicator. Polaris Pumbob. Just hang it off the light in the sky and it will point to the North Pole. So Ruhif has decided that an auto level measures angles, and he needs angles to be measured. You notice he only uses half of it as well. He only uses half of the stadia.
Yeah,
because he wants a
right angle triangle. Yeah.
And you also notice that the center crosshair is well above the horizon.
Yeah. So it is not related with horizon itself.
The horizon doesn't rise to the horizontal every time you establish a horizontal. It just doesn't. And even though you put your eye in the scope of the auto level, the water of the horizon doesn't rise to that either, because you put your eye there. So there's a falsification of the horizon rising to your eye level. When you set up an auto level and put your eye to it, the horizon's never there. It's always below it. Unless, of course, you want to have a word with George Nutsack and Jesse, what's his face? The guy that collects theodolites. 13 theodolite Jesse. Yeah, we don't, Stefan. You're right. We don't use auto level stadias. But Blue Marble has said that you can look at the stars through an auto level. I don't know why he said that, but he did. I have just, Stefan,
yeah.
I have literally just explained the linear change as you move away in distance through the use of the stadia hairs of any optical tool. I mean, like even scopes for guns use stadia hair to judge a distance because of a known size of whatever it is within the optics.
Yes, you are not changing angle because the let's say it is not principle, but the practice would be that you are going 69 miles and angle changes, but in stadia hair you are not going anywhere. with auto level. You are not changing angle to anything. You are changing distance from auto level. And this ratio is linear. If you are changing distance 100 units, you will have in horizontal, you will have 1 unit difference in vertical, if I get it correctly. And this is because the angle is constant.
Keeps going on about right angle triangle he doesn't have. Like it, as if somehow he's going to convince us that he's actually got a right angle triangle if he talks about it enough. He's beginning to sound like a flat earther, like Nathan Oakley or Flatzoid. You're not fooling us, Stefan.
Yes,
like you pretend to be a globe.
All
guy,
part of
but
the same
you've got
team,
a right
aren't they?
angle triangle.
He's talking about something different than we are, because we are not talking about changing angle, because using auto level, and auto level is in the same place. We are not changing angle to anything. We are moving away from auto level with measuring rod, and this measuring rod is on horizontal, marked by crosshair, middle crosshair, and we are just measuring that upper and bottom crosshair is occupying, let's say, more of measuring rod. And
yeah,
this,
the bottom of the measuring rod doesn't even need to be on the same horizontal.
yes, I know, because
it's just literally about how much fits into that vertical distance.
Change, yes. So if we are going along horizontal, away from auto level, it means that for 100 units in horizontal, we have 1 unit in vertical. That's why it is ratio 1 to 200, as I get it. Maybe I get it wrong, but I think that it is.
Yeah, 1 centimeter equals 1 meter.
Yeah. But it is because it is not changing angle.
It's because there's a proportionality between the two distances, the vertical and the horizontal.
Yes,
because
with the same
set
angle. Up
like that.
It
It's the perpendicular relationship of those two distances.
Yes, and the angle of this isosceles triangle is fixed. So it is not changing, because Stefan Mood is talking about changing angle. There is no change in any angle here.
He's talking about the 1 degree over 69 miles again.
Yes.
Now, he keeps swapping from one to the other.
Yes, but he's referring somehow this to auto level. It is not how it works.
Yeah, it's just an optical thing. As something moves further away, more of it fits in. If you want to try and imagine anything, like, then just imagine that the light is on the top of the measuring rod. And as you move away, it decreases in size, yeah, within the crosshairs. But Stefan, I don't think Stefan's ever going to see it, because he's got it in his mind that it can't be done when it literally is done in reality. That's smaller scale, but can't check the big scale, can you? You can just check whether it works smaller scale. And surprisingly enough, yeah, it's linear. When you use vertical and horizontal and do this test, practical, small scale, as in the optics of any instrument, does this. It's been an interesting conversation tonight, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I thought it was absolutely fascinating discussion tonight.
Did I just call that earlier? Look, let me get. I'm gonna have to get this just so it can go on the video. But
we didn't get to Flatzoid though, did we? We didn't get to Flatzoid.
No, I'm gonna have to do the Flatzoid thing tomorrow. Hopefully we don't get into. But I mean, hey, conversations are conversations. That's what we're here for. These sort of conversations. So Stefan Mudd says, so basically what you are talking about is perspective. No, it's a linear relationship between the distance you are away and what is visible within the vertical thing. As a measured distance, you have to be able to know the size of the thing in the distance to be able to make that comparison to the horizontal.
Yes, and you know this size because it is written on measuring rod.
Yeah,
this distance, so you know the distance.
Where it's different with lights in the sky because there's nothing wrote there. You can't do that. So they imagine that you can use an angle instead. You can't, because you can do fuck all with an angle. This one you need to know the vertical size in a distance so you can approximate the horizontal distance. If you don't know that vertical size, you cannot tell. If there's nothing there in the distance, if it's just a stick, you can't tell what distance there is in it. Which I think Blue Marble was attempting to do. But then somebody decided to realise that perhaps there was something a bit weird going on with the optics as well. It's not perspective, Stefan. It's a measured distance within the crosshairs. It's literally measured.
Of course, when he's perspective, it utilizes perspective, but what he means by perspective, perspective vision is always because we are using lens, and even when you have pinhole camera, you also use perspective, even without lens. So perspective is always present, but this perspective is well described by geometry. So perspective is geometry, in fact.
And
well,
that is, optics. Yeah, that's literally, it's a geometric proof. And that's utilized within the optics of a real life tool. Anywhere where you see those stadia hairs, you will see this geometric principles implemented in reality. So one of the Realising Euclids, if you wanted to. I mean, that comes directly from Euclidean geometric principles.
Yes, today I have read something about, not much, but generally about history of optics. So, of course, it is from Greeks, ancient times. So they were talking, and Euclid also was talking about optics. And they knew that, for example, the light is emitted somehow. They didn't claim any theory about that, but that is dispersing in a conical, let's say, direction from an object, and and it is converging. So they knew that how the light's behavior in general, and they assume that the distance between for example, lens and object, and this incoming rays, whatever it is, they didn't know. They had theories, but it doesn't matter, in straight lines. So they knew that we are describing now also basically line of sight, etc., as straight lines, and they are diffracted in the lens. So everything is very well geometrically described. That's why we can produce cameras, because we know how it works. It is just normal geometry application. For example, to create lens and how it would work, where the focal point would be, how to change. So, so the whole the knowledge about optics is based on geometry, Euclidean normal geometry.
Well, Euclid did have a go at optics as well, so it must be describable. Yep. Probably sort of advanced simplicity, because that's what I could take Euclid as now. It literally the essence of advanced simplicity is within Euclid and Euclid's optics too. Notice Stefan's gone. You gave him his perspective that he was asking for, Paper. He can dismiss everything that we've said now.
Yes, if we are talking about perspective, we are talking about optics. Yes, optics and perspective are the same.
But the globe guys have this ability to put that down as a perspective, don't they? And they can dismiss anything you say the moment you bring that in. But really it's just a proportionality, like the tool shows, the geometric proportionality of a size change in the distance. So more of the object fits within these crosshairs that gives you a proportional distance that it is away from you. And once you become to understand this, you can judge how far distant this thing is, providing you know the size of it.
Yes, and if you have constant, this angle, this isosceles triangle is not changing. But if you are using camera, normal camera, it is for usage of photographer, that would be just stupid to use camera without ability to change focal point, because that would mean that you would
it'd have to be a certain distance away.
Yes,
from the
only
always.
Yes, fixed. So that would be stupid, just in completely impractical. So the benefit of camera is that you can change focal point. It means that you are changing angles. So
Stefan's on his thing here. Stadia are used, Stefan, within a fixed focal thing. The angle does not change. The angle is at your eye, and you cannot focus or change it. Well, you can focus, but you can't change the optical length of the gubbins within the tool. It doesn't change. So, no, it's fixed.
So if it is fixed, that's why, because it is fixed.
But we've got to be careful. You've got to be careful, because he's using angle. And the moment you agree, then he will say that you've just agreed that an auto level changes angles, right?
No.
You're measuring the angle or whatever, because that's what he's using. Will the angle change is what Stefan's doing. Know how these people work.
Yes, I know also, but still, now he is saying that using Stadia. Okay, yes, using Stadia and one angle. This Stadia gives you only one fixed angle. You cannot change this angle.
Well, the base angles are also equal.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not about angles at all. It's about the relationship of the distance to the vertical size of something and the proportionality of that as it moves away and in the distance. It's
Yes,
not
without-
about angles at all, Stefan.
It is even impossible, because if you would have this ability to change angle in auto level, that would destroy that proportion. So you would be not able to measure these distances. So 1 to 100. It would immediately destroy this proportion. So that's why it is fixed. So using Stadia does not mean that you are changing angles. No. And by the way, Stadia are fixed also on the screen, on the scope.
Mm-hmm.
So they are fixed, angle is fixed. So what is changing? It is only distance in horizontal and vertical, respectively.
Yeah, one of them has to be measured.
Yeah.
It has to be a known size of something in the distance. Now, like, imagine if you're shooting, right, and you see a big moose and you think, oh, that's quite a, oh, look at the size of that. Only to find out it's a little miniature model right at the end of your gun. You could be fooled by that because you didn't know the actual size of the thing in the scope. You need to know, it's a necessity. You cannot measure an angle and do that job of that thing because the angle would deem there not being anything there in the scope for you to measure. You need to be able to measure that vertical. It's not even worth being able to measure the horizontal to be able to tell how much there is between the crosshairs because there's nothing there.
Yes, it's a point. So you cannot. In fact, this is where middle crosshair is. So this is crossing hairs, and this is point. So how can you? And if you are going away, you are still on that point. So you cannot change, measure anything using just one point. So you have to measure on vertical. So if you measure 1 centimeter on vertical, it means that you moved 100,
1 meter.
1 meter. That's it. Because you know ratio. And why you know ratio? Because it is fixed by this angle on crosshairs. Simple.
Well, it's not really an angle on the crosshairs. Like that's where I've been gone over this with Ruhif. It's just 2 lines on a screen.
Yes,
right?
yes, but
like your eye is the thing that's making the angle. If you want to imagine there's an angle, it's within your eye. But it's not.
I
it's
agree.
just lines and the proportionality for the distance and what's in there. I can't, you know. It's not an angle. Like, if you want to think of it geometrically, then within the mathematical realm, the proof will lie within an isosceles triangle. But this is just 2 lines that are at your eye, and also being the image is being cast into them at the same time. So you're just making a proportion for something in the distance to where it is between those lines at your eye.
Yes, I agree, because in fact it doesn't need to be triangle that has vertex at your eye. It is even impossible, because you cannot have perfect triangle with vertex at your eye, because you wouldn't see anything. So if all incoming light would converge into one point, so you wouldn't see anything. but you have this inclined lines. So the vertex, in fact, is behind your head. But this inclination, of course, has an angle. But and this ratio gives you this certain ratio with this angle gives you this fixed ratio. That's why you can not bother with an angle. You're just measuring distances and ratio. So that's simple. So it has nothing to do with measuring angle with sextant, by the way.
No, I mean, like,
And
yeah, they go from one topic to the other all the
yeah,
time.
because we are still waiting for proof that parallel horizontals are
Again,
somehow
auto
creating
level.
triangle.
We can do that with the auto level. We can use that to prove that the horizontals are parallel. We can use that to show that the relationship is linear, like Stefan said. Stefan hasn't got a rebuttal. He's much like Flatzoid. In fact, Stefan Mudd might as well be Flatzoid for the amount of stuff and the rebuttals he's managed to give, for all of the arguments that he's brought into bear. Stefan's brought them in with no rebuttal. Just keeps asking questions, a bit like Flatzoid did.
Yes, strawman questions.
Which we will go over tomorrow, the last bit. I think it's going over the angle. And I was hoping to go over that. I mean, we've done a little bit of it tonight, but I'm pretty sure that we can go over and explain why it's so much of a problem for people, I think. To show. I'll get the GeoGebra out.
Yeah, it is strange that people assume too much for an angle. So that's weird.
Geometrically illiterate, I'd say, but only within the core concepts, the foundations, because a lot can be assumed of mathematicians. Go on.
I have to go, but I just wanted to let you guys know today was a great conversation. I'm glad I was part of it.
Thank you very much, Rob.
I will see you tomorrow for the Flatzoid stream.
Thank you. Yes, we will be on that. Have you ever practiced that, Stefan? You haven't seen whether it does? Where the optical compression occurs, and where that is in relation to the crosshairs of the auto level, and whether one does actually drop into the other or not. I mean, it can be tested. Obviously, it's in reality.
Wait, but still, what's the problem? Why he's talking about moving away from an object, while using Stadia here, the object is moving away from auto level, and this object is measuring rod. So what's the argument? What would be the difference?
It's just
of course,
saying, will it drop?
Drop in a linear fashion? Drop from what?
What?
He's alluding maybe to that level drop from horizontal, but this is just
well, it's
funny.
he just wants to say it, you know, like he obviously, Stefan imagines, oh, look at this one here. You claimed the horizontal at my position and the horizontal at Polaris GP is parallel. I didn't. I just said all horizontals are parallel. You can imagine lights on the ground if you want, but the horizontals would still be parallel, whether you imagine lights on the ground or not. And and we have a straight horizontal line going from me to the light in the sky. That's the baseline.
You cannot establish that long baseline
You
without
sure?
checking.
Well, how long? How long does a baseline have to be for you to imagine a light in the sky on the ground to be on the other end of the line? I mean,
like 5,000 kilometers long.
Oh, I don't know.
Something like that.
Stefan, where do you put lights in the sky on the ground? And do sextants do that? I don't know what's going on. Stefan, it sounds like you're trying to justify your model to yourself. Think about what questions you're asking and go and ask some of your friends. You'd be much better in a support group of, like working it out with your friends. I've often said that I think the globe people, they're lonely because there's only them with their model, their globe. Everybody has an individual globe. And Stefan, can't really go and ask anybody else with a globe because they might not have looked into all of this sort of stuff and imagined angles, lights in the sky, on the ground. How do you initiate a conversation with people? So I think what Stefan's doing is he's trying to come here to imagine that we are flat earthers, so therefore he can fight against the flat earthers that he imagines in his mind, to help him ease his own questions about his own model. He's asking us questions as if we can only go off what we know. I know about how the stadia hairs surveying operations work geometrically because we've done it. We're called on the level because we put cameras on levels to show everyone that's around here how these stadia work, how the auto level works, how far that distance before the stadia disappears into the ground, and how that relates to the reality that we have around us. Hey Titan, thank you for joining. I don't know what Stefan's after, and I'm pretty sure it's not just Stefan. There's a lot of people that have been in this arena that have been fooled by globe surveyors. There's no such thing, but we were talking about Jesse Kozlowski, the guy that may or may not have been to Maine. And if you've been around the arena for just recently, there's a guy called Jesse, not Jesse Kozlowski, that's disappeared. This is the new Jesse. But he's pretending that he's a surveyor because he's bought a few auto levels or theodolites, total stations. He buys all of the knackered ones off the internet.
This one is Jesse Gordon.
Jesse Gordon, that's the fella, yeah. Yeah, hangs around Flat Earth Discord servers or, wherever he can to imagine, a bit like Stefan does, to imagine that they can have an argument with somebody about whatever it is that they imagine they're having an argument about.
Yes, Stefan Wood has problem because seemingly he doesn't understand that you have already distance to GP. So it is assumed, because otherwise you cannot put this GP at certain distance, but you are looking for that distance in horizontal. So why someone is looking for a horizontal distance when already has to assume that distance, because otherwise, without this distance, this baseline distance, you cannot position this GP of the star.
Is this
This
Stefan's
is just nonsense.
Lakota's right? Stefan Mudd is now giving us the Flatzoid Nathan Oakley flat Earth debate narrative.
Yeah, yes, I know, but still, I
But
can
Stefan
reboot
Mudd
that.
isn't part of that, I don't think. So
who
I don't know
knows?
what Stefan Mudd's trying to do here. Is that really, Stefan? Have they sent you in because they can't come and do it for themselves? That's strange. I know for a fact that Stefan Mudd isn't flat Earth debate, but I mean, sounds like he's got a flat Earth society narrative. I think we could safely say that there's a commonality once again showing its ugly head between flat Earth debate narrative and flat Earth society narrative. No, Stefan, I said all horizontals are parallel. You haven't got a clue on one side of the Pacific. You don't know. But all horizontals will definitely be parallel. Like I've been saying all night. The argument states that the plane of the horizon is horizontal and all horizontals are parallel. Rebut the argument. Don't start talking about two horizontals on either side of the Pacific, because that's a ridiculous statement for you to make. Rebut the argument, Stefan.
Yes, and
He's
we
on
are
repeat
still-
again, just talking about
Yes.
1 degree.
And by the way, it is not every 1 degree is this 111 kilometers. No, it is impossible. It has to change. So if you are, and Stefan, I think that he said himself here that it will increase this distance. So it is not constant distance. It is not 1 degree per 69 miles per degree, because not each degree will give you this distance. So you cannot just add angle degrees and add distances. You cannot do that. And you should know that trigonometry will not give you that. So I don't know why he's talking about that, because still you cannot know this GP of the star where it is. You cannot know, just simple. So you cannot position this distance on horizontal because you don't know the distance on hypotenuse to the star. It is simple. We went through that with Brian's logic, by the way. It was, I think, over a year ago, something like that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it takes a lot to be able to imagine a light in the sky on the ground, right? But I mean, it takes an even bigger imagination to imagine it somewhere over there in the distance on a horizontal that you've established with a sextant.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you want to know how ridiculous the globe wants to be, well, you've got that. And not only the globe, this is flat earthers that are doing it too. Isn't that right, Stefan? You and the flat earth debate crew want to establish the location of a light in the sky over there in the distance on a horizontal established by an angle measuring device.
Yes, and difference between globers and flat earthers is only that one, that and it is again Ruhiv, who is trying to straighten up supposedly curved line. So they assume that on the globe level is curved, by it is magically making straight by refraction and other some wizardry. And then you can calculate this as flat earthers do. So only difference is that you have curved baseline, but this curved baseline is really straight because of refraction, etc. So this is magic trick of Ruchif again. So he is making a curved line straight only for that purpose, to have this baseline, let's say, horizontal baseline. This is magic trick. And Stefan Mood is going with that because old stories.
Yeah, it's even better because of the angle switch that they do. We can go over that tomorrow or whatever. It would be good if they've got somebody. Is there any experts within sextant angle measurements? Do you reckon? Do you reckon there's anybody out there that would like to come and have a discussion about this? Maybe 10th man, or
maybe,
you
but
know, like who are the sextant experts? Preferably a land sextant expert, because I mean that's much easier to do. The 69 miles.
Yeah,
measure it on the land.
How could you measure this at the sea?
You'd have to
I would
have
say
a long
that it is impossible.
rope and pull it tight.
Yeah.
But then you wouldn't know about the water, and it would be difficult to be able to test that 69 miles. And then you'd have to, you know, say the shape that this rope would be lying in. Right, what we got? What time we are? Yeah.
Okay, I would be off to bed slightly earlier.
Okay, is he going to doing the same thing again? Okay, thank you very much.
I think that yes, he is repeating himself. Yeah.
If all horizontal is parallel. Go on,
Good
okay,
night.
thank you very much. See you later. If all horizontal is parallel and we know a star's GP. How do you know a star's GP? How do you know that? That's a claim of a no. Should be testable. Stefan, how do you know a star's GP? Because stars are in the ground. Stars are in the sky. How do you know the ground position? Rob Game. Machine Men by Buster. Yeah, Lakota. A good question. You won't get an answer because apparently they don't need that for some reason. Although it's part of the hypotenuse, so it's a little bit strange how they could work that out. Oh, right. I'm going to have to Buster, let me check this for you. What was it called? Greatest speech. There you go. Okay, thank you very much for watching tonight. Stefan, if you want to continue these conversations, Stefan, there will be the comment section on the YouTube. I'm sure you do that. But if you would like to come in and have a discussion with anyone, really, I'm pretty sure that anyone will be up for a conversation. So let us know what you want. and we'll try and keep this conversation going. That's what it's all about. We all learn. The more we talk, the more we learn. We will try and go over the Flatzoid thing. Probably a really badly titled video for tonight. Never got round to it. I might change it. Don't know what I'd call it though. Come back tomorrow. We'll do the Flatzoid thing tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.
You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Let us fight to free the world. Let us all unite. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. Let us fight to free the world. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You are men. Let us fight to free the world. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world. A decent world that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world. Let us fight to free the world. Let us fight for a world of reason. A world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite. Let us fight to free the world. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world. You, the people, have the power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world. Let us fight to free the world. Let us fight for a world of reason. A world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite.